Hey guys, just so everybody knows, this session is being recorded, which means you have a video recording coming to you after the session is over. And it will also be shared with other people, which means your sound, your video, your face, if you show it, if your screen is shown, whatever you share may become visible to other people at some point. So having uh, told you about recording part, let's move on. So I think many of you, by the way, have succeeded in proceeding forward along that learning pathway that we have here somewhere. And if you look at this process, this unit module number 7, unit 1, 2, 3, and all that, some of us have proceeded forward with this one of the more lengthier exercises, which is deploying a complete application. It's fairly elaborate, as you will see as you keep doing it. And some of you have actually proceeded in that direction. That is beautiful. Please go ahead and explore on your own, and maybe go extend beyond what we are already covering here, and that will be ideal. In an ideal case, you should not feel limited to what we are discussing and covering in the setting of the curriculum that we have. This is just a skeleton framework for us to use in real life. The skeleton is okay, but then we need to have real examples in what we may be working on a given project. We need to have that relate to what we just did back in the class. So with that in mind, this module number 8 is actually attempting to deploy a complete application along with all the dependencies and go live in a real cloud of your choice. And that's that exercise which we will be doing pretty soon. We'll start that. But before we go to the journey, I want to quickly cover a couple of things here. Like one of them, which I saw most of us run into that, and most of us we were successfully able to overcome. And that is this idea of waiting for SSHD. This is where most of us got held up. And now almost everybody knows, but I'm just recapping the topic, is that it is waiting for SSHD, this command that you run, which is this command here, knife something, something, something. What knife is, it is a tool. It is a remote execution tool. If you think about it, remote execution. And that tool invokes Chef on some machine in some remote location. Chef client will get executed on the target node that you might have in mind. So that is what this thing does, remote execution. Now, for a remote execution to succeed, there are a couple of things you need. Like the basic, very basic minimum is you need SSH to work. SSH by default works on port number 22, and it is expecting that the traffic that you are initiating through the knife command that you have, this thing will invoke SSH and try to connect to that node there. And it will expect that port number 22 is open from your location. So this is critical thing. It has to be open from your, whatever that location that you are, maybe office, maybe home, or Starbucks, whatever that your location is. It needs to be open. This port needs to be open for you to go in. If you cannot access, it will perpetually wait for SSHD, and you will feel that it's not proceeding forward. The solution to this problem is looking at your, let's say, Amazon console. So we go to the Amazon console and sign in. And by the way, my password is cached in the VM. So if you log on to VM, so what Alex just pointed out, that my Amazon password is cached in the browser here, which means anybody can just log in. And that is awesome, but don't mind. I don't mind because it is still protected through second factor authentication. So if you go sign in, it will probably prompt you with my password already typed in. And that is kind of scary. And thank you, Alex, for catching it. I forgot to delete my cookies in the browser inside the VM, and I just gave you the OBA file. But you very well know that I am still protected. Not that I don't trust you, but Just saying that it's a bad security practice that I just ended up doing, in that I have managed to leave my password saved in the browser. That is a bad thing. And Alex was smart enough to catch it. And he just messaged me on the private. And yes, I have changed the password. So that is not a reason to worry at all. But I'm just saying that I should not have done that piece. I should have cleaned up the cookies before I package an OVA and give it out to you. Having said, I still have another layer of protection, which is the second factor authentication, and that will come into play even if somebody else, that OVA is publicly accessible, not just you guys, by the way. Anybody on the planet who is interested in Cloud Genius can actually grab this workstation, and they can just grab it by the sync method, and it's publicly available to anybody and everybody. And that is a problem, right? Anybody can get to my account, but thank goodness two-factor authentication is there in place, so I don't really have to worry too much about it. Now, having said, let us go look at a quick review on the port business. This port business comes into play when you are looking at this problem, waiting for SSHD. And so we want to solve this problem in a very clear methodical manner. So we want to basically go look at the console. And in here, select the appropriate region, first thing. The appropriate region may be, if you're following along the program, the exercises, you're probably in the Oregon region, but you don't have to be here. You can be anywhere you feel like that is available. I happen to be in the Oregon region. Now, I will, just for the sake of showing you an example, select a different region for now. I'll select Northern California. And that's where you will see the problem. You will see that by default in EC2, the security groups, which are, I have how many here in this Northern California region? I seem to have 3 security groups. And one of them is a default security group for legacy accounts. So these are people with 7 years of account history. They have this extra security group that I cannot delete it because it is there and it's just there. I cannot do anything about it. So that's not what I'm talking about. I think most of you have one default security group to begin with. And in your examples, if you look at, I have these 2 VPCs here, 1 and 2. These 2 VPCs are already existing, which means every VPC, like you look at here, in my Northern California region, I seem to have 2 VPCs. And those are VPC given to me by default VPC, that one. And another one is a VPC called Cloud Genius. Now I can delete the VPC, that's not a big deal, but I'm just saying that for every VPC, there is this attribute, are you the default VPC or not? So one VPC has to be the default, and you have one already. And that is the default VPC. That is the VPC that will get selected automatically when you run this command. Because you're not calling out which VPC to go create that server. This server creation has to happen somewhere. And by default, it happens inside the default VPC, which means this VPC will get picked up, the default one. And that means the corresponding VPC ID E6FE for my example. If you go look at that and then look at the corresponding security group for that, for the one that we are talking about, this VPC, the E6FE VPC. There is only one security group, and that happens to be the default security group. And let us examine the contents of that security group, the properties of that. So we'll go click here once and then scroll to the bottom, expand a little bit here, like this, and then look at inbound routes and very carefully study. This is where the confusion occurs. By default, Amazon inbound rules for VPC apparently looks like all traffic, all protocols, all ranges seem to be open. Wow. Then why do I need to edit? And why do I need to add another rule saying 22 and then allow from my location? Like, why do I have to do that? Like, why do I have to do something like, okay, anybody on the internet can come in from port number 22. Why do I have to do it? And that is the question. The answer is right in your face, although most of us fail to see that. And that's where the problem begins. The problem is because by default, a VPC is structured so that it is self contained, and unless you allow something, nobody can go in. Even though it apparently says so, all traffic, all, everything, okay, come on in, but not really. And the answer is right here. This piece is pointing to itself. It is the 5 Charlie 96 Echo, that security group. It is pointing back to itself, meaning anybody who is a member of that security group can access that security group, anything and everything, but not anybody else outside, or not anybody else anywhere else, even inside. Which means if you don't have this line, like in the default case, everything all open, but not your source. Your source is not there. And that's one of the reasons why we have this mention somewhere here that says open your security groups. Somewhere along the way in the lesson, in the sequence, I mentioned that you have to open these ports. And once you do that, then everything seems to flow. And you see that the waiting for SSHD goes away. You see that the remote execution begins, and you see that this SSH invocation connects to the node that you just created. And this command actually creates the box, the node, the instance, the droplet, whatever you have, then injects your public key into the box. And then you give the private key to that box so that this SSH command will take that private key from line number 3, use the Ubuntu user, use this machine image to create the box, use T2 micro size, and then start connecting through SSH. First thing you will do is to actually set up Chef. It will do that. Next thing it will do is to run Chef. It will do that also. And when you run Chef and you have a Chef server deployed, and you have the Chef server containing your, so again, scenario is like this. This is you. This is your cloud. And in your cloud, you have this machine created. And you said, my Chef server is somewhere in Seattle. And that is where it sits. This is you. This is your laptop, your desktop, whatever you have. And so from here, you have already sent your cookbooks and your role that you have. Only one role apparently, so I'll not say roles, but there is only one cookbook also. So one cookbook, one role. That's what you have with the starter game in this starter cookbook and starter role. That's what we are sending to the Chef server. And then you invoke this knife command. The knife command will go remote, connect to the cloud first, this cloud itself. In our example, it was the AWS cloud. And then say, create this box. So create the box, and then inject your public key, idrsa.pub in there, in the authorized keys listing in the box, and then start SSH connection. Then it will wait for the SSH connection to establish. But if your security groups are all closed out, then nothing will work. And it is perpetually going to wait for the security group to open up. And that is the problem you solve by opening up this port to begin with from your location. So this has to be allowed. Once it is done, you install Chef. Then you basically install this. It will automatically do it for you. And then the next step is to run Chef. When you run Chef, this installation of Chef client software will run on that target box there. And it knows that you have knife configuration that you created here in the kitchen. So it knows that that kitchen gets transported here. And it knows that it has to go connect to the Chef server to grab the cookbook. So it does that, cookbook. Cookbook comes down, roles come down, and then you have the run list saying, my run list includes the starter role. The starter role we know already has a reference to the cookbook, the starter cookbook, and then most of you have succeeded in getting that welcome to Chef message at the end of that run. So with your name showing up here. As opposed to Sam Doe, which is a name that will show up if you don't use the override attribute. Override. If you don't use that name shows up. But I know most of us have already had this success, which is nice, beautiful. Some of us have gone beyond. And yes, we will follow along. We will understand what we are really trying to attempting to do. And we will do those steps right away as we proceed. Before I begin, if there are any questions on the exercise that we did with using Chef server in one location, you are sitting here and your cloud, and you're creating some machine and configuring it using the knife configuration, using the cookbook that you have placed here, which is the starter cookbook. If there are any questions on that exercise, I would like to hear them before I proceed forward, because now at this moment in this sequence, we are going to go nuts. I mean, I'm not kidding. This is actually one of the intense exercises that you begin right here at that spot. I'm going to paste a link in Slack chat so you have it. What I'm talking about is the Slack chat starting up, and I'm going to paste a link to the starting point. And that is a fairly elaborate exercise. Some people take about a long time. I have run this class, this particular section, for 6 hours nonstop, just to make sure that we get through. I don't want to inflict that on you. I'm just saying, I don't want to run this program today, like for instead of 3 hours, don't want to run it for 6 hours. Although I have done it in the past, but that's not my intention. My intention is to maybe take a break at an appropriate time and make sure that you get the key aspects, the key points that we want to really cover. Now, having said, we are beginning from this point onwards, which is, I'm going to copy that link out and paste it in the Badal group right there. And here we go. And so, yeah, so that's the starting point for today's exercise. And before we begin that exercise, I just want to give you an idea about what is the idea or the exercise. Why are we doing it? Like, why are we actually doing this thing? And what are we going to do? So both these things, why and what. Why and what. Let's do the what part very quickly. What we are going to do is take an app, very well-known application, and deploy it on some cloud. And at the end, we want to make it completely automated, like absolutely automated, every single thing. And all we need to be able to do with one command, like one command that we execute, it should do the whole thing of taking the application, identifying a cloud, creating a box, running it live. And all we then do is go to the browser, open up the IP address or maybe the DNS name, whatever you have, and it should just show us the result. That's what we want, like entire result of a complete live functioning application. It may not have user data. User data may be missing, user data, because we don't have any. We are just going to begin an application, a well-respected, well-known application called WordPress is the example. WordPress, the software. We will take that software and in one command, the very last command, by the way, in one command, we'll take all of it and just make it run end to end on some cloud of your choice. That's the idea. There are a couple of different cloud examples here. You can take your cloud or just do whatever you feel like. That's not the key is it will work with any cloud. It will work with just about any infrastructure that you may want to throw at it. It doesn't even have to be a cloud. It can actually get invoked on a laptop or another workstation or another virtual box if you like, but that's besides the point. The point being, you understood the what is what we are really trying to accomplish is automate end-to-end deployment of an application. So we'll take some app, deploy it on the cloud. Essentially, what I'm intending to do is take a software and identify what does it take to create a software as a service for our customer. That's the Uber idea. That's the essential idea. We're trying to think about what other steps needed to make it a complete automated deployment of some software that we run it for our customer as a service. That's what we are really trying to do in this exercise in terms of understanding, building from basics, from nuts and bolts. Like there is nothing to begin with. We're like, okay, we have nothing. All we have is the terminal. and then we begin from the terminal to accomplish what we want. So we'll begin something like here, and and with an empty cloud, meaning, like, where is the empty cloud with no machines in there, like absolutely zero. Begin from scratch and build the whole thing step by step, understanding at the same time how will we use this tool set that we are talking about, the Chef tool set, to make use of the Chef server, your workstation, which is you here, that is you, and then you have the cloud, and you want to run your service here, and so you're basically targeting this cloud and saying, you know what, I need this service to be running using some Chef server infrastructure. And by the way, I will give you my app. My app is going to be given to you, and I want you to run it there. And then my customer, which is the C customer, he or she will access this box through some protocol like HTTP, for example, and then enjoy the application delivered to the customer as a service. That's the idea. And with that, do you have any questions about what are we doing and why are we doing it? Because once we get in the deep, it will be very difficult to take a step back, and you have to be really, really diligent. And I'm reiterating this. You absolutely have to be diligent in following through. Don't miss a step. Otherwise, you have to do the whole thing again, which is not what you want. You have to be absolutely diligent in making sure that you're not missing anything. Read carefully. I have made sure that this write up is written down to the extent of my capabilities, and it is complete. And yes, it works. So as long as you follow it, and as long as you are doing it, you don't have to do it right away, by the way. And by the way, a couple of you met me the other day, one-on-ones, and we are meeting tomorrow for face-to-face, all of us together. And so some of you told me that these recordings are actually useful, which is nice to know. So thank you. Thank you that you find the recordings useful, in that you can rewind and repeat, or play along, or do the exercises whenever you feel like. And if that is the case, I would actually want to make sure that I do the exercises exactly as I'm writing down on the left half of the screen, and show it to you as I do it on the right half of the screen. If you feel that you can follow along, please do so. If you feel you want to just watch, make sure to understand, make sure to ask questions and I answer them, I think that is also okay. But it's your choice. If you want to follow along, you're welcome. If you want to, just be carefully, attentively listening right now and do it on your own later when the recording becomes available in half an hour or so after the class, that is also okay. So it's up to you. And what I intend to do is actually begin this exercise. Before I do that, as I said, it's a very long exercise, one of the longest ones we have. Are there any questions before we begin on the topic of why, what are we doing, why are we doing, and all that? So go ahead, take your time, ask the questions away if you have any. You can open the mic, chat, talk, either way.
The only comment I have, Neelish, is in doing this, you really have to be organized. That's the thing I've noticed. But other than that, go for it.
Yes, sir, you're absolutely right. A diligent, organize, nice organization, understanding, and remaining absolutely diligent in carefully reading what the heck is there on this site. And it is cryptic, I must admit. This my writings can be cryptic. I understand that. I think that's the part of the problem I am running in occasionally, that I write like whatever I do, and some people may not understand it all the time. And with this group, I have not run into that problem yet. So thank you. But in other cases, I've seen people don't seem to understand what I'm writing. So that's why I elaborate, and I talk and I describe and I do a recording so that people will actually have another method of approaching the same thing. Now, there is a question here about security groups. How do I open? So the same issue. This is the example security group that you're looking at. This is, I think, Shikha's screen. And she's pasted a Slack chat. She did it in private. So you don't have it, but I'm presenting it to you. So what I'm looking at is this group ID. Alpha Charlie Echo Echo, that group ID here. Now, if you go to the traffic, all protocols, all port ranges seem to be open. What's wrong with it? And to answer that, I would like to actually edit and point out that the source is only within the SG. It is within the security group. That source is limited to only those who are already in the security group, and your laptop is not. So it is going to wait for SSHD perpetually until you edit here and open it up for port number 22 from your location. If you don't do that, you're going to wait perpetually. And that's the problem. That's how you solve it, is by editing the security group here, opening up 22 and proceed.
So this is the knife command that does that, right?
So
that hangs.
The knife command, which in turn invokes SSH daemon to connect, waits for the port to open. If the port,
Yes.
yes.
So I guess what I was gonna say is I'm surprised they don't have some kind of they don't have like a check on the port or something like that in the software or the code.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I guess you could always put a wrapper on it.
Yeah, they should put a wrapper. If the port is open, just stop and say, you know what, go open the port first. They should do that. They have not done it. So yeah, maybe it's all open source. So maybe you should make a contribution. So here, go to GitHub.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. Go to GitHub and go to Chef and look at maybe actually the better place to go is Knife EC2. So go to Knife EC2 gem, and there is this gem, which is what we are using essentially. And this is the Chef Knife plugin for EC2. So go make a contribution to this page and suggest what you're suggesting is right there.
I'll just write it. I'll just rewrite it and then have a pull request or something.
Yeah, exactly. So you identify what changes you need to make. You fork this basically, fork it, make a change, and then send a pull request to them. You will have to sign an agreement with the team that manages it, that you are contributing to open source and that you have to basically giving your rights away. So you will sign that, and then once you sign, they might review your code and then they will accept the change if you have. There are tons and tons of people contributing. Let's see how many of them. 68. Contributors just to this particular plugin. Just for this Knife EC2 plugin, there are 68 contributors active. The latest one was 7 days ago, as you can see, 7 days ago, latest commit. So people keep adding, and so somebody from Clogeny Technologies, I don't know which company is that, but the company that made a contribution, they sent a pull request. It was merged by this Nimisha. This Nimisha, I think, is based in Pune. And she is contributing to creating this. She's helping out in the work she's doing with this particular Knife EC2 plugin for Chef. So that's the place to make a change it pull request. Now back here. Yes.
I had a different question, though. I was able to open the port, but it failed to authenticate to the Chef server.
Okay, error message.
I don't know.
Error message.
Error message says it says authentication error, failed to authenticate to the Chef server.
That means your private PEM files, these files you have here, right? I'll show you what I'm talking about. So your name.pem and your organizational validator.pem, you make sure that these are correct, that these are the latest. And I will, in a moment, show you how to get them reset. So most of us have that already. They have downloaded. So I will show you how to get a new PEM file. So on my left half of the screen, you see this this Chef repo folder, right? In that folder, you have the
.chef.
.chef folder. So go in the Atom editor, open it up right there, and in the Atom editor you will find that there are these files: the classroom validator PEM, the private personal private key. So these are two private keys that I exposed to you. Then I have this the Knife RB. So Knife RB, not too much change, but your keys for Chef are this and this. These two are the keys for your Chef. So to fix that problem that you run into occasionally with the Chef server, you have to go back to Chef server and log in. And in that, you need to essentially reset your credentials as well as your organizational credentials. How do you do that? You go to your person, your profile, And in your profile, you will get one of the keys, the PEM file for yourself. Let me log in again. And here, what I need to do is this. I click on my name, and then in my name, you need to go scroll down and click on the third orange colored box, reset your private key. And that will basically get a new key. So you get a new key. By the way, do this inside the VM. You don't want to do it outside the VM because the key gets downloaded. You have to get the key, reset your private key, do that part, and you get a new key generated, and then you basically delete your old key, this one. You delete that like this and place the new key in that location. That's what you do for the personal key, like here. Similarly, if you have an organization created, like most of you do, or all of you do, you need to go and reset the classroom validator key or your company name, organization name key. For that, you have to go back to Chef, log in, and go to the organization name here, and then manage organizations. And then in the organization selected classroom, you have to reset the validation key for the organization. And when you click that button like this, it will warn you that any previously issued keys will be invalidated. And you say, okay, I get it, I understand. And when you do that, you get a new key downloaded for the company validator or organizational validator. And the older keys will be all dead. I'm not killing my key, but I'm just showing you that you can. And then when you kill your old key, new key, you have to place it in this file. And then your connection to Chef server will reestablish, provided your knife RB is still pointing to the Chef server correctly. And then it will work. Now,
is there a reason why we have to reset the key?
Your key must have been broken, bad. Something went wrong. Permissions are not correct. 400. Check for 401. No, not 401. I'm saying
it gave me the error 401.
401 means unauthorized. Your keys are bad.
Yeah.
Right. 401 means keys are bad. So in here, you have to look at these two keys: the personal name.pem and a classroom validator. This is the company name validator.pem. These keys are bad in your scenario. You need to regenerate them, like I just showed you. And that is the root cause of 401. 401 means unauthorized access, which means keys are broken.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to get the root of like why Chef server suddenly invalidates your key, like in 3-4 days or whatever.
Right. No, it's not. It's not based on time bomb. It's not. There is no time bomb. It is a key that you keep your key, and that's what you have. So it should not die on you like this, but it did. So fix it by creating a new one. It should not die on you, but it did. You understand what I'm saying, right? These keys died.
No, I got that. I was trying to get to the bottom of why this happens.
I don't know. We have to check logs. We'll do that. So right now, I think you know how to proceed and circumvent the issue and proceed forward. So please do that. Let us proceed in the next direction, which is I would proceed in actually doing the exercise. So we are back in that Chef repo again. And here, what I'm going to do is be diligent and read. So if you don't have the Chef repo, if you don't have your classroom, or rather I should call it organization validator PEM, or if you don't have your personal PEM, here's how you get it. So the blue link, which is not really a link, you have to construct a link out of your organization name, goes here, and then create a link. And that's where you get the kit downloaded, the starter kit. And then inside there, you will have the company validator and the personal PEM and a knife RB. You will get those things. You just expand them, put them in a folder like this. All of us have it already. So we have this tree structure already in our hands. We'll just make use of it. We have it already from a previous exercise. So since most of us have it, this step, if you're redoing the exercise, Chef will reset your keys if you do the download again. So don't download again. There is no point unless you're Shikha, in which case your keys are broken. So go do it. Otherwise, you don't download again. There is no need to download again. Now, after having downloaded already, we have expanded the repo That's our kitchen, and we are working in the kitchen. Remember to work here in that folder, not any random place, in that folder. And some of us will go inside some other folder and work there and then get stuck. But no, come back to this folder. That's where you work. Now, having seen the chef repo may kind of sort of look like this, like you saw already. You're looking at it in the Atom editor. And now what I intend to do is make it a little bit more elaborate. So right now we don't have many things already in there, like we don't have attributes and files. And so this is like a skeleton structure. You may see something like this, but then I will give you exact details we expect to see in our kitchen. And we will also use Git to go along as we do it. So I'm going to go to the next section. So I'm clicking the next button. And here I'm looking at the first thing first, enforce a discipline, which means we have to go back, look at the gem file, which is very short. It's a very small gem file. However, we will need a ton of gems, 85 or so. So here's a long list of all the gems we need, really long. Probably it's more than 85, it looks like. So I'm getting a copy of all these gems, a listing like that, copy it and bring it to our gem file, delete the old content, paste the new content. We have 130 gems, by the way, 130. And the first line is source. So go to rubygems.org and get me these 130 gems for me. And that's what we intend to do. So we're going to save the gem file like this, save. And when we save, this lock is kind of moot. This lock needs to be regenerated. So let us get rid of it, like gone. We need to regenerate the lock file based on a bundle install. So we will do that step right now, right here. And we'll also do a couple of cleanup steps. For example, we don't want the cookbook starter role. We don't care about the starter role at all, nor we do care about the starter cookbook. So we are going to basically delete them. Like starter, okay, whatever, delete. We don't need you. What about this chef ignore? Yeah, you leave it there. We'll talk about ignore files later. Roles. In that roles folder, we have the starter RB. I don't care about that either. So go bye-bye. And now we have site cookbooks, we have roles, we have cookbooks, and these git ignore file and chef ignore, and so gem file and some readme file. In fact, this readme file I can also go because it is not relevant to our case. So I'm deleting the readme file completely, or rather just leave it blank, and we will write our notes here for our team to consume. So we'll keep on writing our notes in the README file as we go along. If we have to, we can basically, becomes a documentation for this particular project. So our team members who are going to use the same project can also understand what is going on. That's the best place to write in a README file in a Markdown format. Some of us know Markdown, others don't. So go read about Markdown. Markdown is a format of writing text documentation. That's how GitHub writes documentation. That's how now Microsoft writes documentation. Yes, you may have seen or may not, but this Markdown is a method of writing. In quick example, this is how you write. So I'm going to pull up some sample for you to understand what Markdown is, and let us see if I can show you. So here is my email, and let us see if I can open up something and compose, and let us try to write an email to Shikha. Let's say, for example, Shikha, there we go. So I'm going to write an email to Shikha, say hi, and then here I'm going to say, this is header, this is H2, this is plain text, and these are shell commands. And now watch the magic. Markdown magic coming up. I'm clicking a button in the toolbar. It converts plain text markdown actually, into HTML with a click. And that's Markdown. You can see the same Markdown used in multiple places. In GitHub, by the way, this was created by John Gruber, and that's what Cloud Genius site. All of the writings that you see are Markdown here. Whatever I write on the site here, they are Markdown. Back to minimize. Why is the screen? Okay, there we go. All this writing that you have, the entire write-ups are all Markdown. GitHub pages that you see in all the chef thing we saw. Basically, every documentation you see, whatever you read, this is Markdown. You can see that it is actually a README RMD file there. And so it is written like, it looks nice, but if you look at the raw file, it is Markdown. And that's what you're looking at. So that's what this AMD means. And that's how you write documentation in most cases. In technical documentation, that's the modern way of doing it. So closing that file in MD and closing the gem file also. And our next logical step is to remove the cookbooks folder completely. You saw that I'm completely removing cookbooks folder, removing the starter role, and removing the known host file. Don't miss that step. If you miss that step, you will have trouble. So you want to remove the known host file, which is what I'm also going to do right now. So I'll remove the cookbooks folder and remove the roles folder. Starter is already removed. Then I will remove the known host file. Do you remember what known host file does and why it is important to remove like this in a big exercise you want to about to proceed? Because you'll remember all the previously accessed machines that you might have, and sometimes some clouds will give you the same IP address for the same box with the same name, but a different machine hash, and then it will refuse to connect. And that's the reason why we are removing known host file. That is gone. And then we want to create some new folders right there. Like for example, I want to create a ton of them in one fell swoop. I'll create all of them like this and go. And so what this will do is create a bunch of folders for us. For example, roles, environments, data bags, site cookbooks, and cookbooks like that. So we created a bunch of folders. They're all empty right now, right there. So we saw them, they're all empty, except the .chef is not. And the git ignore is, we'll talk about that momentarily. So now in our terminal, you see that we have our tree structure looks kind of sort of like this. And we'll play the tree command. And we see that we have all these folders mostly empty. Most of the folders are empty, the files are files. And the three things, the company validator, the personal PEM, and KnifeRB are all in good shape. Having said that, we will proceed to the next step. And now is the other very critical step, which is to make sure that our knife configuration, this one, is actually accurate and complete. So we are going to look at it very, very diligently, absolutely step by step, line by line. And first thing, we'll go and make some room at the bottom and copy the whole thing in the example here. So copy like this, the whole thing, copy, and bring it over here, paste. Now we have some redundant duplicates, so we'll go clean them up. So at the very top, we have a comment. We can just kill the comment, gone. Then we have line number 1, which is a duplicate, redundant, with line number 18. So 18 goes, 18 is not needed, so I'd kill it. Log level is repeating with line number 2, so I'm going to delete. Then we have log location, delete. Node name, this is important that your name has to be there, which you probably already have. In an existing KnifeRB, you probably already have. In my example, line number 4 is what line number 18 is. So I'm going to delete 18, goes. And then client key, it is already okay in line number 5, so I'm going to delete that. Then line number 18, it is already there in the line number 6 up on top, so I'm going to delete 18. Validation key, I have it already in line 7, so I'm going to delete. My chef server URL is also okay in line number 8, so I'm going to delete this. Then some of the other entries are niceties, so we want to keep them. And I will like to keep these entries because they do not exist already, which is what I intend to do. So I will take these cache type, cache option, path, and verify API cert. I'll take these three items, cut, and move it up on top like this. And then proceed looking at the remainder. We have our cookbook path. And this is slightly different. As you know, site cookbooks have been given precedence like this over the other path, which is the cookbooks path. So the site cookbooks are getting precedence, which we already have taken care of right there. In a previous step, you already took care of this part. If you have not done it already, please remember to do it. By that, what I mean is your line number 9, which is the cookbook path reference, it has to give priority to this folder over and above the other folder. And I think most of us have it already taken care of, but if not, do it please. And then I'm going to delete this line. The other things like for example, lines number 21, 22, 23, these are cosmetics. You don't need them. Do not need them. But for niceties, you may want to put your name in the creation of a cookbook. When you create a cookbook, it will automatically pick up your name and insert into your creation, because you will be creating cookbooks and you will be basically creating new ideas, and this becomes your intellectual property. So you want to tag it, you want to put your copyright, and you want to put your license. So in my example, I want to release my cookbooks in open source, so I give the Apache license. If you don't want to keep your creations in the open source domain, you don't have to. It is your creation, so you decide how you want to give to other people, or if not, just call it proprietary and leave it like that. You don't have to have the word at all, but I'm just saying it's for you can even say internal use only. These are mostly legalities. These are cosmetics, but that's how you communicate with who are reading what you have, is what is the policy that you have for your release of your creations. This is where it will pick it up from. You don't have to have it again, but I'm just keeping whatever I had, which was Apache 2, because my intention is to make sure that I give my creations out to the open source. And so I will use Apache 2 license, which is an open source license from the Apache Foundation. Now, having said the other remainder steps, which is lines number 27, 28, and 29, I already have it taken care of in a previous exercise. I have my access key ID and my secret access key all there. By the way, do not disclose this information to other people, because if you do, somebody will gladly use your account and start Bitcoin mining, and you will get a $600 per hour bill. You don't want to lose your keys and make them become publicly visible. I am doing it because I just have to. By the way, I have protection in place, so don't worry about making it publicly disclosed. So I have protection in place to make sure that this doesn't actually go out, but I'm warning and cautioning you, do not ever disclose these keys out to public. Never. And so these lines 27, 28, 29 are redundant because I already have taken care of it right there. So I'm going to delete these lines like that. Next, I want to get a token from DigitalOcean. So I want to grab that line and provide a token to my DO cloud. And I need to change this.
Quick question. So DigitalOcean or AWS? Oh, okay. So we're going to be using either DigitalOcean or AWS.
Yeah, you can use either or you can use both, and it's really up to you. These are Visa stickers. Like this is what I call a Visa sticker from the cloud. So this is me Visa number, Visa from DO. Oops. This is Ruby kicking in. So Visa from DigitalOcean. This next one up on top is Visa from AWS. That's what I mean by Visa sticker. So that's a sticker from Amazon that you apply to your passport. And this is a Visa sticker from DigitalOcean that you apply to your passport. Now, if RB becomes your passport. And so that's what I mean by Visa stickers. Again, this is my own way of representing the idea. You don't have to use the word Visa sticker at all. People call it credentials from the cloud. That's also okay. So that's what I'm doing is I need to go grab this, change this syntax, the access token right there, and put it in the right spot. I can get that from DigitalOcean. I know where to go and get it. Now I will delete this commentary that I have because it tells me how to get my Amazon credentials, and also delete this commentary which tells me that I am going to get my DigitalOcean token. So 2 examples. You can have more. You can put an OpenStack sticker, an HP Cloud sticker, this and that sticker. Any of the credentials you want to apply and play with this infrastructure, you can just put your credentials in this location and just enumerate them one after the other. Add appropriate gems to your gem file to work with Azure or Google or OpenStack, and then bundle again and come back here, paste the appropriate credentials, and you should be good to go. It will work. Now, the last 2 lines are important. These are relevant. You want to leave them like they are right now. You don't want to uncomment. Remember, do not uncomment and don't delete that. That line is going to be useful in a subsequent step. So leave it like this in your Knife RB and save. And also go to DigitalOcean, by the way.
Actually, Nilesh, can you go over again how not to publish your key files?
These keys should belong to your laptop in your Knife RB and stay with your laptop. Don't do a video recording and put it on YouTube. That's what I'm saying. Right? Don't put these keys on a YouTube video recording or post it in Slack chat so other people can see. Right? You don't want to do that. If I do that, it will be a problem. Because people will use the key, and I'll show you how to exploit. If you want to see that, I can show you that also. If you get hold of somebody's keys, I can tell you how to exploit and make money. But that's the bad way of doing things. Like that's how evil people do. And so I know how to do that, but I don't want to do that. There are people who do that, by the way. And so people will take your credentials and gladly make money out of it on your wallet. They'll basically steal. They'll basically steal money from you if you let go of these keys. You don't want that to happen. And that's why I'm saying, don't let the keys out in public. Keep it on your laptop in a Knife RB file safe. And don't leave the file. Keep it with you. Now, having done that part, I'm going to go to not Digital Commerce, but DigitalOcean and grab the token I need so I can replace this section. So I'm logging in. And this token is also equally important, by the way, just like these Amazon keys, token is also critically important. And you don't want to let other people see the token. So I just have to show it to you. So I'm showing it to you, but the settings and the security, and that's where you get a API, and then that's where you get the token. So I do not have any token because I keep on deleting them all the time. But for right now, I'll generate a new token, give it a name, and then generate. And then I have the token. This is going to be visible to me only one time. Like right now, I'm going to copy it and put that in this location like that. So now I have the token, and yes, I'm recording the video. So people will have access to this token itself, which means after the class is over, I need to have the discipline to come back here and delete my token. If I don't do that and somebody gets access to this token, that will be a problem because they will start exploiting and I will get the bill. I don't want that. Nobody wants it. So don't do that. That's why I'm saying do not let your keys out. This is like leaving your credit card number or your wallet open in the wild with no security, no protection at all. That's not what you want to do. You leave cash in the door, in the front door, outside the door. No, you leave it inside the door. That's what I'm saying. So I got the token in place. I got the keys in place. If you have more clouds to deal with, you just add them right here like this. You can keep adding your, oops. Oh, what am I doing? Yeah, you can just add your cloud here. 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. You keep adding your cloud accounts, credentials, and then save the file. Now your DigitalOcean and your Amazon keys are in this particular Knife RB. You save that file. You want to come back and test whether everything is okay. And then you put everything in a Git commit. So how do we test whether our connection to a couple of things are all good. So we want to test right now from our laptop. We want to make sure that we can connect to the Chef server. And the two clouds we are talking about, one cloud here and another cloud here. We want to test out connections to these guys, right? All three. So credential check, 1, 2, 3. Check our credentials. How do we do that? First with the Chef server. Very simple. Come back here and say bundle. First of all, bundle install, because we haven't actually installed. So we need to install those 130 gems, which will happen very quickly because I have done it for you already. So this should happen very quickly. And you should find that the gem installation finishes. Zoop, 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 finished. So we got 131 gems now, apparently one more gem installed. And now we can use them. So how do we use them? We say bundle exec. That's how you use the gem file, gems. And then test connection to our Chef server. Chef server first. This connection I want to check whether access keys are all okay and can I communicate to it and all that. Let's do that. So bundle exec, knife, node list. Show me what nodes do I have, and you should see your name, which I did, which means my connection to Chef server seems to be okay. Similarly, another one, knife, client list. Are there any clients currently connected to my Chef server? No, only this classroom validator that is available. Let us see some other things. Bundle, exec, knife, cookbook, list. What cookbooks do I have in my Chef server? I have this starter cookbook still sitting there. I thought I deleted it, didn't I? Not really, because I deleted it from my laptop, not from the Chef server. So I need to go remove that. How do I do that? Bundle exec, knife, cookbook, delete. And starter. And it should delete that cookbook, which means our cookbook list is empty. Nice. Let us do other things. Bundle exec, knife, role list. Let us see what roles we have. There is a starter role. I want to kill that role. So I will knife role delete starter, and I will delete that role and it goes away. From previous exercises, I might have lots of other things like bundle exec, knife, data bag, list. Do I have any data bag items? Yes, there are 2. So I want to delete them. Data bag, delete, and secrets. And similarly, users. So I'm just cleaning up right now. This is basically checking out whether our connection to Chef server is all okay. A couple of things also here. I think you will find environments, bundle exec, knife, environments list. And you should see like 4 environments. So I'll start deleting them. Knife environment delete, prod, and then say yes. Then similarly, knife environment delete stage and say yes. And then I will go to the next one, which is dev, and say yes. So my environments are all deleted almost, except I cannot delete the default environment because it is the default. I cannot delete it, not allowed. So it has to be there. Let us see what else we have. In our cookbooks, we cleaned up, roles cleaned up, nodes cleaned up, client cleaned up. Most of the ideas that we have in our kitchen should have a representation in the Chef server. We have cleaned up roles, environments, data bag, cookbook, and not much is left in the Chef server. If something is left, we can always go back and clean it up as we go along. So we succeeded in establishing this connection. Good. Now, what about AWS? Are we connected to that cloud? How do we quickly check? We'll say bundle exec, knife, EC2. This is using the EC2 plugin, by the way. Knife EC2 plugin that you saw, we have used a bunch of different gems. In a previous step, we are currently using the knife EC2 gem, which is this one. This gem is what we are using, knife EC2. And we are saying, give me the list of servers I am running right now in my default, which happens to be Oregon. So I should see at least one box because I have one running. And so if you don't have anything running, you should see nothing. And that should be the result. In my case, you see there is an authentication failure. This failure is because of a protection that I put. A protection is what I'm going to show you now. So I need to go enable that, which is what I intend to do. So I'll go to my Amazon console and disable protection right now. So go to Oregon and also go to my security credentials, and then the security credentials I am currently using are temporarily marked inactive. So I need to make them active, and then they are active. Once it is active, then I can run the same command again, and then I should see my server right there. And now I am vulnerable. So if now at this moment somebody has access to my key, I'm screwed. And I just told you that. Yes, that's a problem. And to overcome that problem, you should use IAM that you already know of, identity and access management from a previous step. If you recall, that's what should be used, not this crude method of generating keys. This is bad, almost bad. It is still, it works, but it is not the best practice. But I'm using it because I just wanted to save time. In the other exercises we have done IAM, if you remember that. Otherwise, go watch a previous video. I'm talking about this identity and access management thing. In a previous session, we covered it. And so that's the process you should follow if you are really being elaborate. But for right now, since you know the IAM already, I don't want to use it again. It's kind of a little bit time consuming. So I don't want to go that direction. I just quickly create a key and come back here, and in our write-up, we'll just proceed forward with the checking the connection with the other cloud, this DO cloud. Do I have anything running there? I established this connection. It now works okay. Now I will check the connection to this cloud. And now checking that, this cloud connection goes through another gem called, the gem name is Knife DigitalOcean. And that is this gem. You can see it here in GitHub. Its name is Knife DigitalOcean. That's what we are using in our gem file here somewhere. In this gem file, you will find a reference. One of the 131 gems we have, which is this one, is what we are talking about. Knife DigitalOcean gem. And that's what we intend to test, whether our machine connects correctly to the cloud, DO. Our laptop needs to connect correctly to that cloud because we have put in a token in place. If you recall, the token has to work. And so I'm going to verify whether my token works by running a command, just like verification command similar to this command, in which I'm going to list out all the servers that DigitalOcean provides to us, to my account. So in this EC2 example, you saw that I wrote bundle exec knife EC2 server list. However, for branding purposes, the DigitalOcean cloud doesn't want to use the name server because they are in Ocean. So they think that these machines that we create are droplets. And by the way, their cloud name is not EC2. The cloud name is digital_ocean. And this droplets is not plural, apparently, it's singular. And then you have to say list. So give me a list of all the droplets. That's the command syntax if I remember right. Otherwise, I'll go read the GitHub documentation. So I'll run it and test out, and I should get nothing. And I got nothing, and I'm happy about it because there are no machines running in the DO cloud right now. You can see in my account in DigitalOcean, I do not have any droplets running, which is exactly what I'm seeing right now, right here. No droplets in your DO cloud. My list of droplets is empty. And so this DO is telling me to create my first droplet, which is what I may or may not want at this moment. I'm not interested. But I'm able to successfully establish my connection. That is the most important thing. To establish a connection, you need to check these things like I am doing right now that you saw. So make sure the establishment of a connection between your laptop and the Chef server, laptop and one cloud, laptop and the second cloud, laptop and the third cloud. These connections have to succeed for your kitchen to do whatever you want to do in a variety of different clouds. You want them connections to succeed correctly and not get a 401 If you get a 401, you are unauthorized. Unauthorized, which is basically an error. Your keys are broken. So go fix them. And then come back, check, and then proceed. Now at this stage, apparently everything seems to be in good connection, which means I should take a snapshot. Basically, put everything that I have here in my kitchen inside a Git repository so that I can share it with my friends. So what I want to do is basically put everything inside Git. Now, when I put things in the Git commit, I want to make sure that these folders that I have deliberately created and they are all empty, they should also become a part of the Git commit. But if you leave them empty, like I have right now, and you try to do a git init and git add and git commit, you will see that your git commit actually do not contain any of the empty folders. Like right now, these folders you have are all empty. And so Git will conveniently ignore empty folders like these and these and these. These folders are empty and Git will just ignore them. And to take care of that problem, what is a recommended good practice? And the problem, by the way, is you want to retain these folders that you are currently empty. You will fill them up. But if you want to retain them as empty right now, you need to actually create a keep file, some dummy file like this. I'm going to show you what I mean by a keep file. So I'll pick up my cookbooks folder. In that folder, I'll create a new file. By the way, this is not written down in this write-up, by the way. So just so you know, this is something that is relatively new. So I do not have it written down in the left side of the screen. This is not written down again. I'm talking about a new subject, which is to preserve empty folders in Git. For folders, you need to keep them. You want to keep the folders. So you want to keep a file in that empty folder and call it the keep file and hide it by putting a dot in before. So you can say git keep. That's the name I want to use for my file name, .git keep. And I'll basically put an empty file right there and save it in the cookbooks folder with a name .git keep. That's the idea. That's a convention also. You can have any name you feel like, doesn't have to be this name, but I'm just using this name because that happens to be a convention in GitHub. So you .git keep in every folder you want to keep and you save. And then in databags, same thing. Save the folder in databags as .git keep, save. And in the databag folder, you now have the git keep. In environments, do the same. New file, save, empty file, environment folder, file name, .git keep, save. And now you have it in the environments. Same for roles. Empty file, new file, save in the roles folder, name, .git keep, save. And inside cookbooks, new file, save, site cookbooks folder, .git keep, save. And after having done that, what we have accomplished is empty files with the name .keep in the .git keep in the empty folders. Basically making them not empty. Like that's what we are really doing, is making those empty folders not really empty because they have something that is empty. So the folder is not empty, which means Git will honor it. Nice. Now, there are certain things that we do not want Git to keep. We want those things to be ignored, for which we have a separate file called gitignore. And it's already written for us, but we'll see what it contains. For example, we don't want people to have access to our PEM files in the .chef folder. So this folder, the PEM file called the classroom validator.pem or the personal PEM files, these should not be given to people. They are your secrets. Similarly, we will create an encrypted databag secret inside the chef folder eventually in this exercise also. And that encrypted databag secret should also not belong in the git commit, which means the gitignore file will have to actively ignore that thing. Similarly, there are some some random things that we don't want to give our friends and colleagues, like trash, for example. This Ruby test cache and RBMRC and RB version, and it's a bunch of different useless things that nobody cares about, but then software tends to create them. They're all listed out here. Like, the temporary files created, OSX will have this .ds store, nobody cares about. Windows will have thumbs.db, we don't care about. Recycle bin, nobody wants to give these things to other people. So you basically are cleaning up by actively ignoring things that you don't want other people to have, because this is trash mostly. And then some of these are security related, so you want to hide them from other people. And that's the purpose of a git ignore file. So in git ignore, you actually want to ignore certain things like prem and encrypted data bag secrets. And one more thing that we will do eventually in the sequence. So I'll talk about it when it comes in the flow. So I will now close this git ignore file, go back to my git repository, the chef repository, and here initialize a git repository. So when you do git init, right here, dot, enter, initializes a git repository, which means in our Atom editor, you should have another folder called .git right there with lots of other things. You don't want to mess around with that thing. You want to keep it kind of closed. Don't go there unless you really, really want to, in which case, you know what you're doing. At least I will assume that. And so I would avoid going in that Git folder at all. We have created that Git repository in that folder, which is where it will keep track of changes. Right now, it is the exclamation mark, meaning there is something new in the folder you want to keep track of. So let us do that. So we'll add everything that we have, git add, and then git commit. And there is a shortcut that I'm using this time from a previous attempt, and I'm just putting the comment right here, as opposed to opening up some VI or Atom editor or gedit editor. I'm just pasting my comment right here in the body, like this. And then we say git log, and you should see the log saying this is my initial commit right there. And that preserves all the things. We want to preserve the .chef knifrb. Yes. Do we want to keep our nilesh.pem? No. So it is not there in the list. It was ignored. Do we have the ignore file itself? Yes, we want that ignore file. But do we want the lvnilesh.pem? No. Do we want the company validator.pem? No. Do we want all other trash that we might have that we don't? No. So that is not there already in the Git repository. It is added only 10 files, which are the knifrb, which you want to give to your team so that they can also operate on the same cloud. Git ignore file is the convention to keep all the things you want to ignore. So you want to keep that file. Gem file, gemfile.lock, some documentation, cookbooks folder, which is empty. Actually, not really empty technically, because now we have the git keep file, which is empty. So that's how you overcome this trouble you run into when you have empty folders you want Git to keep. You put a git keep. Empty folder you want Git to keep, git keep. And that's what we did to preserve these folders. So now they are a part of git commit, and we also have these other things. Having done that part, let us proceed. In the next step, what we now do is we want to get some cookbooks. And you know what we did the other time is we said we are going to create a Burks file. And in that Burks file, we'll say Burk shelf, Burk. I cannot write properly. What's wrong with me? So let me get back here. So I am writing Burk shelf, and in that Burk shelf, what I am suggesting is that Burk shelf, you please go look at the Burks file and get me all these cookbooks. Cookbook number 1, 2, 3, like that, right? Get me these books for me. And so Burk shelf did that, right? It looked at the Burks file, went to the supermarket, and supermarket gave us those books, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all that, whatever we need. So that was this tool. But today we are going to use a different tool. Very, very similar, not much difference, but just to give you a flavor of another tool available. And this is open source, so everybody can create their own creations. So another gentleman actually came before Bookshelf, created something which is called Librarian Chef. And so what this tool does is goes to the supermarket. It used to be not the name supermarket when this was created, so it was a different name. It will go to the supermarket. It used to be the library, right? So librarian will go to the library and get you the books. That was the idea. And it will go to the library and grab the books you need for you, looking at a file that you specify. You say, here is my list of books that I want, and the file is called chef file. So I will give you a chef file, librarian. You go to the library and get me the books, please. And the librarian will say, yes, sir, I will do it for you, thankfully. And so that's the idea of using another product called Librarian Chef. That is the idea that we are running here. We have to create another file here in the Atom editor like this and paste this content. Let's see what the content says here. Copy and bring it here and paste. What do we have here is go to that location, opscode.com, which is the older location, by the way. It still works. Still works. I think the last time I checked, it worked. And we are saying, you know what, get me these cookbooks. So we are going to get them. And these cookbooks will become available to us in our cookbooks folder because that's where it belongs. So we will run Librarian Chef, which will then look at this chef file that I'm creating right now in the chef repo, chef file in the chef repo folder, save. And now I have the chef file containing this detail of all the cookbooks I want. And by the way, here is a listing of all the cookbooks we need for our application to succeed. And I will talk about that briefly before we proceed. The cookbook is written, the list of books that we have written down here is something that actually comes from experience and also by reading the documentation for our application. So in our example, we are going to install this application called WordPress. There is a service available, by the way. If you have been aware already, there is a WordPress.com service available. Most of it is free. And free as in $0. $0. That's what I mean by free in this example. Most of the services in that WordPress.com has is free. But you know what? That is not what we are talking about. We are talking about WordPress.org, which is the software. And that is what I'm going to look for right here, right now, WordPress.org. And that software is available to us. You can download it, click, and it comes down. Also, if you go read the requirements, it will tell you what it requires. It tells you that it requires PHP 5.6, MySQL 5.6, and this Apache module. That's what it requires. For the software to run, you need to get this. You need to get what is known as a LAMP stack. L-A-M-P. I think it sounds like a chat message. So the quick way to create .git keep. Yes, that's a good one. Thank you, Alex. Please post a gist in GitHub so that people will be able to consume it. So pasting like this doesn't help. Paste a gist so people will copy and paste and make use of it. So thank you. And so that will help in quickly creating .git keeps in a variety of empty folders. So Alex will do that momentarily. You will have a gist coming from him. I think you know what a gist is, Alex. I don't need to tell you. Gist is coming. So what I was talking about is this LAMP stack, right? This thing is what we need to make sure that we run. We get Linux already from the cloud provider gives us. So DO Cloud and AWS Cloud and any other cloud, they will give you Linux already. So use it. Then we need to have some other things. A, M, P. This A is for Apache. Apache is the web server that we know of from previous exercises. We have done Apache web server usage. So that's the thing we need. We need M for MySQL, a database that we need to have. This is an open source database now controlled by Oracle. So that's the reason people don't like it sometimes, but then, it is open source, so we can still use it. The the P stands for PHP language. And that language, it has to be 5.6. The MySQL version has to be 5.6. And that's the requirement stipulated by these guys, the developers of this particular software. And having understood that part, we need to make sure that our cookbooks that we are grabbing need to actually enable what we absolutely need to have. Otherwise, it will not work. So this collection that you're looking at here, this list of cookbooks that we have now put in our chef file, actually says, get me the Apache cookbook. It says, get me the PHP cookbook. It says, get me the MySQL cookbook. And then there are some other cookbooks that are needed as dependencies. So we have them also, but primarily we need the MySQL cookbook, the PHP, and the Apache cookbook. These are the three cookbooks that are essential ingredients to get our application in the complete LAMP stack up and running. Once the stack is running, then we can put our application on top and get to a point where we can use it. So our scenario would be get some hardware, run Linux on top, then configure the AMP part, Apache, MySQL, PHP, and then add your application up on top, and then configure this MySQL database. So DB, it has to have a password that only you know, and you have to put that thing inside the MySQL configuration so that this application, when it wants to connect to the MySQL database, it can using this password. And then you have this port number 80 exposed to the world outside, and people can access this through HTTP. That's the scenario we are trying to build towards, right? So underneath hardware from some cloud, Linux, AMP up on top, this builds the platform. And then you put your application up on top, and then you enable it. And this configuration can be a little bit tricky. You have to make sure that the database actually connects properly, and that all that has to be automated, hands-free, and the password needs to be remaining secure, and nobody else except you should find out, and all that good stuff. So we will do that. However, we want to automate the whole thing out of it to the extent humanly possible, and most of it is already possible, so we'll see that. But having at this point, I have made sure that I have my chef file in my hand, and when I run librarian, as you will know, it will look at this chef file and go to some location, go to some location and grab all these cookbooks I have listed and put them in the cookbooks folder, right? That's the expectation. And so since I can do the same thing by running librarian chef software, it will go look at the file and bring down all the things download everything. Like, it will become a huge package, and my kitchen gets bloated, and I don't want to make it bloated. So I want to not, I'll keep it trim and nice. So what I want to really do is don't put these cookbooks in the Git repository. And the reason can be strange, but really the reason actually is, just like you can get the cookbooks down from some location, so can your friends and teammates. Like, so if you are here and you are pulling down the cookbooks and your friend is here, they can also pull down cookbooks. Why do you want to send them a kitchen containing all the cookbooks? You don't want to. Why do you give them? No, you just give them this chef file and let them pull it down whatever they want based on the chef file you give them, or in some other cases, Burke's file you give them, and they can do it themselves. Why do you have to push this boatload of cookbooks? You don't want to. And that's the reason why I want to put the cookbooks folder in my ignore file. Ignore file here. In this listing, I don't have the cookbooks folder, but I want to put that right here in number 4, or maybe at the end, doesn't matter where. If you follow along in this step, that is exactly what I'm doing. I'm saying echo cookbooks at the end of my gitignore file. I'm pasting it at the end, but in my example, I'll just visually place it right here. I'll say cookbooks right there. And this does effectively the same thing. It is going to ignore this folder from entering git commits. So by doing this thing, what I have managed to do in save git ignore is that I am also, by the way, it will create a temporary folder, and you don't want to send the temporary folder out to git commits. And so I think it is best to run this thing before I describe it. So I'm going to copy that command, which is a bundle exec librarian chef install command, bring it here. And in my listing, I have my chef file in place. That is what contains the listing of all the books I need. These books that I have mentioned on the left half of the screen, that's what I want to get. And I will be using librarian to get me the cookbooks. So here we go. Librarian, please go and get me the books I want. And librarian will say, yes, sir. And let us see what it does. And we'll find out whether it works or not and everything. And so it should go and grab the books for us, as I am expecting it to. It will take a lot of time, and there are lots of books, and they will all come and become available to us in the cookbooks folder right there. That's where I'm expecting them to show up. It should take about 2 minutes. This librarian can be a little slow. And so it is running right now, and you will see that it will create a temporary folder right now, as you can see in your Atom. The temporary folder created, librarian folder created, librarian cache getting created, and it is dumping things in there. So you can see it dumping all the books right there. And then the dump happened, and then it migrated all the cookbooks you prescribed in the chef file in your chef repo. Whatever you prescribed in the chef file are now available in your cookbooks folder right there. Here, cookbooks and TMP. Those two folders got created when you ran librarian. And it said installing this, installing that. And these are the books you wanted. When you said bundle exec librarian chef install, it looks at the chef file and installs the books you want in the cookbooks folder. Did I delete it? I think I managed to delete it, apparently, or maybe move it somewhere. I think I accidentally moved something somewhere else. Let me undo that. Undo. Okay, I need to run that command again because I have managed to mouse around incorrectly. And as a consequence, I have destroyed something that was there in my cookbooks folder. I had a ton of cookbooks that I saw, and they are all gone, which means this is a cleanup needed. So if I go look at my cookbooks folder, I should, oh, they're still there. Why doesn't Atom show? Hold on, Atom, show me, please. So Atom should show me cookbooks that I had, and they're there. So it was not showing me for some reason. That scared me. So no issues. Now back here, what this chef file and librarian chef together, what they did is they have created two folders. These folders are the TMP folder, new folder created, and it filled a ton of cookbooks in our cookbooks folder. That's what it did. And most of these cookbooks, our friends, our colleagues can also obtain themselves, right? Just like you can, so can they. So we don't want to transfer this boatload of cookbooks to them. So what do I want to do is go to my git ignore, which is here, and I ignored my cookbooks. Good. Similarly, I want to ignore my TMP also. I don't care about that either. So I will say TMP and save. And then close the git ignore file, which means this TMP folder should be also ignored. Let us go examine that. So now our Atom editor should have kept it open. And back here in Atom, you see that TMP is grayed out. And so is cookbooks kind of grayed out. This folder is grayed, and so is TMP. It is an indication that they are being ignored. And having done that part, what I will next do is to illustrate this idea that once you have the cookbooks folder ignored and the TMP folder ignored, you want to add Git again. And this time, what you will see is that this is not an error. This is a warning. So you can there is a behavior change in Git 2.0, which is fine. So it should not cause trouble. It is just a warning. That is a change in behavior in Git coming up. So having seen that thing, let us now do a Git commit. The Git commit line is basically saying Git commit -m, and the message is ignore cookbooks and TMP, cookbooks and TMP, because we track them in our chef file already. Because we got chef file. That's the reason. We can ignore cookbooks folder and we can ignore TMP folder because we got the chef file, right? So anybody can do the bundle exec thing. Now, how do we know? How will people know that we want them to run the bundle exec command like this? How do we want people to know? Our colleagues may not have an idea, so we want to make sure that they do. And we can very simply write a simple document in our README file that says, you know what, clone, or rather, git clone this repo, and next up, bundle exec library and chef, so you get all the cookbooks also. That's how you begin writing a quick documentation. I'm going to save the documentation itself. This was step number 1. Then you have the step number 2. Like that. So you start building your documentation for your team members in a primitive fashion to begin with. You're basically telling your team members, you know what, clone the thing, then you do a library and chef install, so you get the cookbooks as well as TMP. Because when they will clone the repository, they will not have the cookbooks folder and they will not have the TMP folder either. But when they run this step here, the library and chef install step, it will create those folders for them. And that's what we just did. And now we have our Git log will show you that we have 2 commits, initial commit and ignore the cookbooks folder and TMP folder because we got chef file in place. So that's good. Understood. Now Git status will show you that everything is clean. There are still some modifications here. README MD and the cookbooks.git keep got deleted because we have made sure to ignore cookbooks. So we have to add these changes also. So git add one more time and git commit one more time with another message. And this message will be something like I added simple documentation step to README. And then enter. And now we have git status showing this deleted. Okay, I need to go do the git rm to make this message disappear, which is git rm cookbooks.git keep and then git status and then another git add, I think will help. So git add and a git commit one more time with a different message. And that message will be cleaned up cookbook old stale git keep. And now the status should be all nice. Git status. Yes. And git log should show the logs. And nice. So now we have a Git repository that we are beginning to build. So we can give it to our team members. And that's the documentation for them. It's very primitive, very rudimentary right now, but we'll build it slowly. Now, as we go along, let us It just the screen size is back up here, and proceed to the next step. We have successfully, yes.
Break now.
Break is good. Yep. Thank you. And so I will take a break right now for 5 minutes. Right now it is 7:35. We will continue our discussion at 7:40. Thank you for a request for break. And there is this gist that Alex has posted. Thank you, Alex. This gist you can see, and it is basically a small little script that looks for all the open folders and just goes and creates a .git keep empty file in there. And that's what he's doing for every directory. And he's looking at every directory, and he's all awk and said, man, you are awesome. So yeah, so that's a sign of a nerd. There are lots of jokes about these things. For example, one joke that I think you may have heard when Bin Laden was killed on Twitter. I tweeted. Let me open up Atom. I'll just write it here instead. So the joke was my tweet that day was this: sudo rm-rf/bin/laden. That was the joke. Yes. Yes. So
very funny.
Yes. So there are lots of old-time Unix people, big nerd. Thank you. There are lots of crazy jokes about Unix command line things that people talk about all the time. So that's what Alex has just demonstrated very successfully in writing a cryptic three-liner. Beautiful. Thank you, Alex.
I was going to bring up, it was funny, we were talking about domains and DNS the other day, and
yes.
Today I saw that, I guess that's related to politics, but JebBush.com got the domain got bought by Donald Trump, and now it gets pointed to his website. Kind of interesting. So it'll get rerouted to Donald Trump.
I know. So that is crazy. But here, let's look at who owns Jeb Bush, right? Who is? So let's find out who owns Jeb. What's going on here? Not this. No, not this. So gkg.net, who is, and let's go find out who's the owner for jebbush.com. Jebbush.com. Not Nebish. Jeb Bush. Come on, autocorrect and search. So let us find out who owns it. So the owners are privacy. Okay, fabulous.com is the owner. Fabulous.com. Pty Limited. I don't know.
It's a company.
Yeah, Australia, maybe Singapore, one of those countries. I don't know which 6-1 is. 6-1 country code.
Yeah, I think it's not his Jeb Bush's official site, but I just thought it was funny that Donald Trump bought the domain.
I don't know Donald Trump did. Maybe his agents or somebody else called Fabulous. They bought the domain. So
well, I mean, at least somebody that works for him.
Yeah, possibly. Very likely. He's the kind of person that you will expect to do these things. And so.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
And so.
A $10 billion company probably has lots of access.
Right. And so he is totally capable of doing these things. So he's, yeah. And so what they have done is auto forward the domain Jeb Bush. Basically, this is not a security, but it's stupidity that Jeb forgot to take jebbush.com, to purchase jebbush.com at the beginning of the run. He should have purchased that, and he did not.
Because that's not his official site, but still, I mean, how many people do you think go there?
Yeah, but now people will go and just have fun, right? So similarly, this site, carlyfiorina.org, another case. So just hit it, and this site is full of all the people that got laid off by Carly.
Oh my gosh.
And so this is another one, right?
Hilarious.
Yes.
Oh, that's so funny.
So somebody took the carlyfiorina.org, and so I'm using this to tell you how many people she laid off at HP, and it was this many. And so there are all these sad faces that go on and on and on and on and on and on. The whole site is full, and that's what he's doing. Somebody's doing this, having fun basically. And so carlyfiorina.org, she forgot to buy the domain, and somebody else did, and they're having fun. So same idea.
Well, they didn't have very good IT staff, put it that way.
I know, not just IT staff. You need smart people to think that, you know what, somebody can take our domain and misuse it, or at least our name, our brand, they can misuse it. So why not go buy it? It costs you like $10, maybe one. And it's stupidity, I call. This is a stupidity bug. This is not technical bug. Same is jeffbush.com. It is Jeff being lame. Nothing else. He's just being lame. He forgot. How do you forget these things? I don't understand. But then people do. And I think that's what makes them politicians. So we can have some fun at the end of the day. That's what it is all about. It's about having fun.
Well, how did Google forget to buy their domain?
I think that was a technical mistake. Yeah,
sure.
Technical thing. Yeah, I think so.
Potato, right?
Oh no, it wasn't. I don't think it wasn't actually Google's fault. I don't think, because if the domain was open, then the person would have been able to keep it and hold it ransom.
I know.
No.
It was something technical, I think. Otherwise, the person would have fought bad against Google and kept the domain.
Oh yeah.
Once you buy it, it's yours.
If I bought Google's domain and they didn't have rights anymore, I'd be like,
yeah, I'll fight back I'll take a loan and fight against Google if I get like something like that, right?
Yeah.
If it push comes to shove, I might like spend a couple of $1 million and fight, because the payback is huge. But then you have to have a case.
Yeah, I think they did a huge payback for Alphabet.
Did they? For ABC XYZ?
Not ABC XYZ. I think they did the Alphabets also. They were covering all grounds.
Huh.
You know, just like what you're saying for politicians, they should cover all grounds.
Yeah.
Alphabet.
So they were doing that.
Is that what you mean? Alphabet.com?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it is going to some other location. Not Google, not XYZ.
oh.
Alphabets.
Plural.
Is it Alphabet or Alphabets?
Plural. I think the company name is Alphabet.
It's Alphabet, yeah. But whoever owns that company is probably like, all right.
But then
now we're worth something.
Google was smart enough to get this instead, right?
Yeah, XYZ domain and ABC is the company.
ABC.xyz.
Because it's A.
Yeah. So it's the ABC company and the XYZ company merging. Is that the idea?
It's funny. I don't know if anybody has watched Zoolander 2. They use the company name as A to Z.
How nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so let us resume. So we have 7:43. I guess I can never have a 5-minute break. It seems like I always go to like 6. So Calvin says BitTorrent isn't working for me. The last MP4 was 2.6. It appears to be a partial file. Delete the partial file, please. And I will post a quick link for you. This is for the DevOps section, I guess, Calvin, right? So here comes a new...
No, I haven't received many of your MP4s since apparently February 6th. It stopped.
So DevOps begins here and technology begins in another link coming up. So I'm giving you 2 links. One of them is the DevOps link I just posted, and the other link is here. Just resync using these links and that should work. So
okay.
Resync using the 2 links I posted. That will bring it back. If not, after the class, we'll just take a look at what's going on.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And let us resume. So what we have done, let me recap. What was I talking about? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What was the last command we used? Log. Okay, Git. So what we have managed to done is created a chef file, grabbed some cookbooks, ignored cookbooks folder, ignored TMP folder, put it all in a Git commit, and wrote some very primitive rudimentary documentation, which is here. Yeah, do this, do that. That's it. Not much. And let us proceed to the next step. The next step is that we want to make sure that this folder, Site Cookbooks, exists. And we want to create a README file. These are again very cosmetic things we are doing right now. So, create a file called README. And in that file, I'm basically suggesting that, here, create a file in there. And then in that file, we will say, we'll store our cookbooks in that folder, and then git add and git commit. So this place, the cookbook, Site Cookbooks place becomes a place for us to use custom cookbooks. Our own creations will go into this folder automatically. When we create them, our books that we create will belong in this folder, Site Cookbooks. That's what we just said in that little note we wrote. And next step. Next step is to clean up our chef server, which I think I have, but I just want to make sure, double check. So quickly delete. Quickly go and delete all the cookbooks and then upload the cookbooks we have now obtained through chef file. We have these cookbooks here already with us. In our cookbooks folder, we have a bunch of cookbooks. We want to send them to chef server, and that's what we are doing, like this. The path.cookbooks is explicitly called out. The -O option is to specify the path. The -A option is all the books. -A, all. -O, path. Look here for the cookbooks. That's what it means. By the way, in our knife configuration, if you go look here, and knife and our cookbook path already says that our path is Site Cookbooks and cookbooks. That path is already defined, which means in our command, we really don't need this thing. Not at all. Because it will automatically pick up the path from the path in the knife config, line number 9, knife config, knife RB. Knife RB, line number 9 already says that the cookbook path is, so we don't have to specify the path, but we can. And in our example, I'm not going to use the path. I'll say just send all the cookbooks up to the chef server like this. So go and take the books and start sending. So it will take all the books and start sending to the chef server. And you can see that in here, in our chef server, sign in and policy, and then books, and there are nothing to display. Now this UI that you have, the chef server UI, is, let me say it right. How do I say it? I don't like it. That's how I would like to say. I don't like this UI because it is not dynamic. It doesn't change. When I am pushing cookbooks out to it, like right now, I should see some books showing up. It doesn't change by itself until I refresh, which is lame. So now I see 1, 2, 3, 4 cookbooks here. I should see the refresh happen automatically, but it doesn't seem to, because it is
no Ajax.
No Ajax. It is lame. And so, yes, you just have to live with that. That's how the current design is. And now we have all the books up there, which means one more refresh, and now you will see the books. And so now you see them. So you see all the books that we wanted to send, they are all now available in our chef server. In the UI, you can see. By the way, most people don't even use the UI because you don't need to, because you have the command line available. And so you will say bundle exec, knife cookbook list, and just see the list. Why do we need to go to the browser? We don't need to, don't have to. And so we would not. And here we go. And I'm going to pause syncing for Calvin. I'm sorry. Sorry, man. I am pausing sync, but I think you will still receive the content. From my machine, you will not, but from other machines, you will receive the videos. I think Calvin is probably syncing, and that's okay. So the traffic should not impact. If your sound gets impacted, if you don't hear me, please tell me. I don't think there will be a problem. So send cookbooks to the chef server. We did that. We have it visible. We can see them. Books are available now. However, this does not contain any of our creations because we haven't created any yet, right? Only the publicly available downloaded cookbooks that the chef file had listing for and that the librarian obtained it for us. Those books are now with chef server. Our creations that we will create, we have to send them again one more time. And so we'll do that. Our books will go there when we create them. Next unit. Then what we are essentially doing in this part is thinking about environments. So what does that mean? It means that we will have, let me get the piece of paper. We will have scenarios where our team members will be working in a dev environment, sometimes in a stage environment, sometimes in production environment, sometimes in some fun environment. It doesn't even matter what names these are, or some XYZ environment. It doesn't matter. Any string of characters is okay. So we are intending to use these 3, 1, 2, 3 names for our environments. What does that boil down to practically? We have to create 3 files in the environments folder. How do we do that? We have to basically generate a file in the environments folder for each of the 3 environments I'm talking about: dev, stage, and production. And how do we do that? You can do it visually on the Atom editor, or you can do the command line approach. Both are available. So in the Atom editor, you can create files visually, or if you want to use the command line, that option is also available. So I'm using the command line option this time. I'm adjusting my screen size a little bit. There we go. And now I'm going to create a file here called environments/dev.rb. And one change you will see from the last time is that in the previous attempt at using Chef, we had used JSON files. This time, we intend to use Ruby files. So this is Ruby language, in which I'm going to paste that language and save the file in my environments folder as dev.rb Ruby file. Save. And I just created a new environment called dev.rb. With the name dev is important. The description is irrelevant. The description can be anything you like, but the name dev is very critical. And the file name dev is also critical. That's how you created a Ruby-based file for illustrating that you will have a dev environment. You can quickly repeat the same 2 more times with a different content. And that content is the stage environment in the environments folder, stage.rb, and save. Next is the production environment. You're basically creating 2 new environments. So third one called environment folder, go in there and say prod.rb and save. So now we have 3 files: dev, prod, stage. 3 environments. Dev is the dev environment, prod is the prod environment, stage is the stage environment. 3 environment files in our environment folder. And now we need to make sure that our Chef server has these environments. The simple steps are to send it over to them, and you can practically copy and paste these lines like that. So just copy them and paste them here. 1, 2, and 3. These 3 environments, dev, stage, prod, will go up and are becoming available now on our Chef server. How do we know? Bundle exec, knife, environment, plural. There's no plural here, it's singular. Environment list will show you those 3 environments plus the default environment. That's what you see. So you push the Ruby files up onto Chef server. Ruby is another way of writing your structure, your infrastructure, JSON or Ruby. Both methods are okay. So this is the Ruby representation of the same thing. Next one. Now we have to go define roles for our machines. And what is a role? A role is what you want the machine to become when it grows up. Machine now versus machine later. Later, it becomes something else, right? Something else. What is that thing? This is something else. Machine right now is just enough operating system. So it begins from the ground zero. And now and later, the state changes. The state will change. And you want that something else. You want it to take on a role. So you want to take on these roles that you define. So you want to take XYZ role, X role, Y role, Z role. And you want your machine to take on this role. Like the last example we did was the starter role. In our example, we want to define a couple of different roles. The roles we want to define are a base role, a web role, and a DB role. So 3 roles. A base role is like everybody needs to have this. So every machine will get that base role applied. For example, I would like to have Git installed on every box that I am running. So everybody gets Git. It's like everybody gets a shower every morning. It's a hygiene factor. It's the base role. Everybody gets security patches. So come on, get it. Everybody gets Git. Come on, get it. Everybody gets VI for fun, and they get it. And so that's the idea behind a base role. It's a common collection of things you want on every machine. And so you just put them all in the base role and apply that role base to every box. So everybody will have Git. Nice. Because by default, just enough operating system will not have any Git. It will not have anything except the kernel and the SSH capability. That's it. That's all it has. And you will not have any other package, any other software there. So you will not find anything. You have to basically add whatever you need on the base, on the foundation. You make sure everybody gets it. Put that in the base role. Next one, we'll define 2 different layers. So the layers that I'm talking about are something like this. You want to define a database role for the database boxes. Like this is your DB box, and these are your web server boxes. So you want to run the web role on these boxes, and your DB role on the database box, and the base role on all the boxes here, everywhere. And then these people will go through the load balancer, which will be a service, or we will have our own box later. But for right now, we are not doing this. And in fact, we are not doing these either. We're just doing one to begin with, small. And it's just one of them. And by the way, this happens to be the same box. So in effect, what we are essentially doing is we're just using the same box. And that same box gets the base role. The same box gets the web role. And the same box also runs the database. So all of that in one single box. But we are clearly calling out these 3 different roles for the purpose that in the future, we may not want all the roles applied to the same single one box, but instead spread the love, spread the load on separate boxes. And you will run the base role plus the DB role. And by the way, you will run the base role plus the web role, which means, you know what, here you will run Git, you will run VI, and you will run Apache. And here, what this means is that you will run Git, and you will run VI, and you will run MySQL. That's what it means. And so we want to create that distinction between our roles very clearly, so that the web role applies to these boxes and the DB role applies to those boxes. And a future role called a load balancer role we will have at some point will get applied to this box, and then plus the base role. So we will create our own load balancer at some point and have the base here applied. So this box will also run Git. This box will also run VI and run a load balancer software, which in our example, we will be using HA proxy. proxy. HA proxy is high availability proxy. I don't remember the exact full form of it, but let's go find out. That's the product we will use. It's an open source product, HA proxy, and here it is. High availability proxy, I think, is the name. So that's the product. It looks like a childish Craigslist style website, but this is an awesome product. I cannot stop talking about it once I get there. But let's skip back right now. Let's stay here. What we are essentially discussing is this idea that we are creating roles, which are 3 by definition, by design. And we can then put all the roles on the same box or segregate them on different boxes and scale out as needed and spread the load as we go along. So to do that, we need to build role definitions. The role definitions also become Ruby files. So we'll have a base.rb, web.rb, and something db.rb. So some database file. These 3 files get created in the roles folder. And that's what we intend to do next. So here we go. In our roles folder, we have nothing. We'll create those roles right now. So here is the base role defined for us already. We'll just read it and understand what it does. So here, new file, paste, save in the roles folder, and call it the base.rb file, base RB, in the roles folder, by the way. So go in the roles folder and save it there. This file goes in the roles folder. Not here, roles. Base RB, save. And it goes here, shows up. Now let us read that base role clearly. What does it do? Focus on line number 1. The name is base, B-A-S-E. That is important. The file name is base. That is also important. This is description. It is not important. It doesn't matter. It is for humans to understand. The machines don't care. Number 4, that's where the run list begins. The run list says, in my base, I would like every box, every machine, every instance, every droplet, every whatever to have these things. Now, what do we want? I want apt, so I can update my apt cache. I can run applications. I can install whatever I need on any box I want, which means I need to run sudo apt get update. And the chef way of doing the same thing is line number 5. Line number 5 is recipe default in the apt cookbook. What does it mean? You go to the cookbook section, look for the apt cookbook, go to the default recipe, and here is where it will do apt get update. That's the command. That's what it runs. Apt get update. That's what this step is. Recipe apt. That is the first thing you want to do on every new box. Update the apt cache. And that's what we intend to do. Next one is get git everywhere. So this means run the default recipe in the git cookbook. So we have a git cookbook right here. Git cookbook, recipe, default. And this will install git on your target OS. So it will have git. Next up is build essentials. Not essentials, but essential, singular. It is not plural. This package is needed for any build dependencies. If you're running a compiler to build something, you need all the header files and everything else to make it happen. That package, build essential, will get that thing for you for the boxes that you want. So I want it in my base role. So I put that build essential recipe, which is a reference to the build essential cookbook. And the recipe is the default one, which is here. And all it does is gets you the build essential recipe for that particular OS that you may have, may not have. In Ubuntu, it is available, and you can actually apt-get install build essential, and it will install all the headers for you for your kernel and any other thing that you may need. And that's what this does, and that is a requirement at the level of base. So everybody gets it. Next thing, we want to have the sudo cookbook, which is also another cookbook available in our listing. the sudo cookbook, and there is a recipe for that. This enables escalation of privileges, or also known as, in Windows world, known as, I forget that every single time, run as administrator. Yeah, that's what this does, run as administrator. This is also known as elevation of privileges. For security, you want to run not everything on administrator, but only when you need to. Only needed is when you run sudo, not every other time, not any other time. Only exactly when you need it, then you run sudo and you know what you're doing at that time. Otherwise, you're liable to get screwed. Basically, you'll mess up. So, but that is a requirement. You need to have sudo access, and that cookbook does it for us. You need to also create some sysadmin users on the target boxes just in case, for running services like we discussed in the past, or sometimes people just want to go to the box to see what's going on, which means we need a user to be able to connect to every box. And that's what this line number 9 does, is that there is this sysadmin cookbook. Where is that? Oh, sorry, users cookbook, and the sysadmin's recipe in there. By the way, here I'm going to just tell you a convention is when you are silent about something, like I'm going to add this, so remember, : default. When you are silent about the default part, it is assumed that you are talking about default. Similarly, here, and oops, undo. Yeah, so this default section is assumed, like build essential : default. This is assumed that you are going to run the default recipe, which you may or may not. In case you do not, you will call that other recipe out by name like this. So there is users cookbook, but not the default recipe, but instead users cookbook, the recipe name is not the defaults, but the other cookbook, the sysadmins. That's what you want to run. You want to create or remove sysadmins depending on what you want to accomplish, and you want to create those users who will become sysadmins, and you want to have that capability on every box so that you will have a sysadmin user applied to every single box. And that's what this will do, is that command, that line in line number 9 in the run list will enable sysadmin level access to all the boxes for the users you specify in your data bag. And we will see that coming up. Next one, there are certain override attributes. We want to override in the sudo cookbook. We want to specify that these two users will actually be passwordless. So you don't ask for a password when they run sudo, and you let them run super user commands without having to type password. And that's what the override says here, is we are saying that these overrides allows two users, Ubuntu user and the Vagrant user, to run super user commands without having to type the password. And that's what these lines do. So the overrides will do that. So this base role applies everywhere. Every box gets it. And that's what we are essentially doing, is making sure that our base role gets applied with these collection of recipes applied to every box we want. And then we have created that base role successfully. After having done that, we have to create 2 more roles. Let us go look at them. So in our roles folder, we just have 1 role right now, which is the base role. We have to create 2 more. So new file, 1 for the web role, or rather first one is the web role, or rather I should call it the web server role. That's the file name. So I should not use the word web role, but I should use the word web server. So here we go, copy and paste. And I'm going to read this. But before I read, I'm going to save in my roles folder, and I'm going to call it webserver.rb. That is the name of my role. And I'm going to save it in the roles folder, not here, but here. And save. And that is the definition for my web server role. Remember, the name has to be webserver.rb, and this name definition has to match. This is just a description for people. Now, here we are defining some use case. The usage is for every machine that takes on the web server role, make sure you give them the base role already. So this is a cross-reference to the other role. Every box that becomes a web server also needs to be the base to begin with. The first thing, go get the base things done. And then you install PHP. Then you install PHP module for connecting to the MySQL database. Then you also run the Apache web server. Then you install the Apache module for talking PHP 5. And also the requirement from WordPress, which is mod rewrite. That module also needs to be enabled. So we are calling it out that I need you to do these things. How will it do it? First thing, it will go look at the base role and finish that. Then it will look at the PHP cookbook and look at the default recipe, which will basically install PHP. Then it will look at the PHP cookbook and run the other recipe called module MySQL, which will available in cookbooks folder. Go look at PHP, and in the PHP folder you will go look at recipes, and in the recipe there are tons and tons of them. We just want to focus on the default recipe first, which is this one somewhere here, and that is what is going to install PHP by default. And next one, there is this recipe called module MySQL, which is for every database, MySQL and Postgres. I think they have Memcache. So these recipes, for example, this one is what we want so that it will be able to successfully communicate with MySQL database using PHP language. That's what that particular piece of recipe will do for us, is to enable PHP to communicate with MySQL as needed. Next one, Apache recipe, Apache default recipe, I should say. So here, back in Apache cookbook, right there, and you've seen it before. The recipe is the default one, which is this recipe. And that's the one that runs when you invoke line number 8 through the environment definitions. And this is to be run for all environments, no matter what, whether you are in production, development, or stage. That's what this says, run list all env. And in here, mod PHP 5 and mod rewrite are two extra modules, which are mod PHP 5 is in the listing of recipes here somewhere. Mod PHP 5 should be down there somewhere. Mod PHP 5 is right here. And we have the mod rewrite also down somewhere further. So scroll down, mod rewrite is right there. And those two recipes, in addition to the default recipe, is what we intend to run for all environments, whether it is dev, stage, or production. In certain cases, we want to have another recipe already included, especially when we are debugging PHP. And if that is the case, we need this module, xdebug, the particular recipe under the PHP cookbook. We need that recipe to be included in addition to all the environments that we are installing here. We want, especially for our dev environment, we want module xdebug, so we can debug PHP, and that is a built-in cookbook recipe already, and that is available in mod xdebug. So scroll down, and mod xdebug is somewhere here. Where did it go? It looks like there's a change somewhere. So that is already, by the way, it's a comment right now. So I'll go investigate what that change is. It must have renamed something else. So I'll go read that and update you on how do we debug PHP in a development box that is in the development environment. But for right now, the comment takes care of it's not going to generate any error. The error will pop up if you uncomment it. So, but don't, unless you want to debug, which is a different case. So the idea essentially is for different environments, we can configure the layout of our machines in a fashion so that the dev boxes become capable of debugging and not the other boxes. You don't want to mess with the other boxes. You want to mess around only with the development boxes and configure so that the web server roles will take on and include the debugging capabilities only on the boxes that are marked as development environments. But right now we are commenting it out, which means dev will be very similar to all other environments, and so will production be. So production and dev and stage and all if it's not mentioned, all environments will automatically be picked up. And that's the definition for our web server role. Now, similarly, similar to this, there is one more role, which is our last role, by the way. So the role is going to be this definition. And here, the role name is DB master. And there's a crazy thing that you will see right now. In the roles folder, we'll go and save. In the chef repo roles folder, the name has to be db_master.rb. So we'll take that name, save it here, db_master.rb in the roles folder alongside base and web server, and save. Now, once we save this DB master, it has to match this name here, and that is important. Next along, all the database boxes that are becoming the database masters need to have the base role. Very simple, very, very simple. Everybody gets the base role. And in addition to that, you will run another cookbook. That cookbook is called Your SQL. It is not MySQL, but Your SQL. And by the way, if you look at the cookbooks, there is no such book. There is no Your SQL cookbook here. So what is this? That's the question. You don't have it. And so, but I am adding a reference to the DB master role right now with a cookbook that doesn't exist, because we are going to create it and put that in our site cookbooks folder momentarily. And we are passing a reference to the non-existing cookbook. It doesn't exist right now, but I want to create that and use it. And I don't want to go back to the role and change it. So I am using the word Your SQL as a play on the word MySQL, because I will actually use the MySQL cookbook and deviate from it just a little bit to make sure that it works exactly the way I want. And these are overrides. We will do them as you will see as you create a cookbook. You don't want to necessarily follow exactly what people tell you to, but you may want to have certain requirements of your own, and that's where cookbooks are handy. They're helpful. You make use of them, but then you don't have to blindly follow them. You can put overrides and make custom creations like I am going to do, and you will also do is you will create your own SQL cookbook called Your SQL, which happens to be a derivative of the MySQL cookbook, but it will be customized by you for your taste with your password and all that good stuff. And that's the reason that we have named it like this, Your SQL. And following along, it will have the run list run on all the environments. And that's what it will end up doing. It will look for Your SQL cookbook, which currently does not exist. Having said, I'm going to close out on this role and now manage to send these roles up and the environments up to our chef server. But before that, git commit. So here we go. Git add roles and git add environments, and then git commit. This is slightly different from the write-up here. And like here, I add only the roles because in the previous step, I forgot to do this, I think. Maybe I did not. I don't remember committing it to Git in the previous step. I must have missed. So I'm doing that later, and that is okay. And by the way, one more thing. In this entire exercise, if this exercise is a little bit overwhelming for you, I suggest as a bad practice, again, repeat, this is bad practice, skip everything Git, and it will be okay. It will work. You don't have to do Git. If it is a little bit overwhelming, this exercise becomes too much of burden, just skip the Git commands. Anytime you see Git, just skip forward. It will be okay, just fine. It will not hurt. It will still work. But that is bad. So I avoid, telling you that, but I have to, because sometimes some people find it really, really heavy. This particular exercise becomes really heavy. So only for those people, if you find it really heavy, just skip the Git steps, move on. And you see Git, just don't do it. Proceed. with the next step. And that is a bad thing, but I'm just saying that, you can. Don't do it though. Okay. So git commit -m, add roles and environments. And then we did. Now I need to send my environments up and my roles up. And I think I sent my environments up in a last step somewhere along the way, but I'm going to send my environments one more time, and here we go. So 1, 2, and 3 environments sent up. Now I will also send my roles up to the Chef server. So here I'll see my role list first. Do I have any roles there? Probably not. Do I have any environments? I think I saw it the last time. Environment list. So I should see 4 environments: dev, stage, prod, and default. Now I want to send my roles up to the Chef server, and I can just copy them. If you have them old roles from, by the way, many people end up doing this exercise like 2 or 3 times, multiple times, and so that's welcome. If you do it twice or thrice, you will really understand what's going on, and you can maybe go deviate from the track, go do something else, build something out, do on your own, and that will be possible if you really understand it. If you don't understand this exercise, you probably are missing a big chunk. I mean, the whole chunk of the entire DevOps section you will miss if you don't actually complete this exercise. And so that's why I'm saying is doing and understanding what's going on, and maybe a little bit of experimentation with this versus that, something different on your own with your own brain applied, is welcome. So please do that. And once you do this like 2 or 3 times, you will really nail it as to how do we take any application that you might have, look at its dependencies, and build up whatever is needed to completely deploy it out on any cloud in an automated fashion. And that's what we are attempting to do. So doing this exercise is absolutely important. It is hard. So skip Git steps as a bad practice, but please do it because it will help you understand. Having said, I'm going to send my roles up. And here we go. 1, 2, and 3. So 3 roles going up. And they will land in the Chef server, and I'll just list them out. We should see DB base, DB master, and web server. 3 roles showing up. Nice. Next. Now comes the tricky part. So you have to listen to this very carefully. Is that copying and pasting is a hard thing to accomplish if you're doing it in Linux, especially when you're doing it like first time in your life. And so be very careful in copying and pasting this one thing. That is the single most difficult thing to do. People mess up on this exact spot every single time. I've seen many people, many times. Sometimes they will not copy and paste the public key correctly. And I'm just illustrating that one point before going through the detail of it. You know how to copy the public key. You just cat the public key like this, and then type the public key out. And you remember that the key actually is only this part, not the user at Cloud Genius part. That is your public key, not the remainder, right? So that's how you copy, and that's what you take and put it right here in the highlighted section between the quotes, like here. That is the single biggest failure that people run into. We cannot copy and paste the key properly. And so do that very carefully, and you will be okay. And that's the most hard part in this particular page, copying and pasting. Just saying, do it like this. Don't include the other sections, not that. Just here, all the way, SSH RSA. That's how you take and put it right here in one long, really long line. It'll go like really long, and that's okay. But that's what you do. It's all one line, right? This is all public keys, one line. It just folded, wrapped around, but it's all one line. So that's what you put there in the paste your public key here section. That's the hardest part in this page. Now, having done that part, at least discuss that part. Let's do it. So begin. What we are really doing is creating a sysadmin user for ourselves. Who am I? That's the question I would like to ask. Who am I? And it tells me that I am a person named user. That's the name, user. That is the name that I have chosen for each one of us as the name. That is the username. The username happens to be user. That's why it shows up like that, user. That's what the answer to the question, who am I, is you are user. Great. So you know that your username is user. Okay. Now, you cat your public key. You know how to do that. Copy that in your clipboard. You know how to do that. You got the public key already. So if you don't, you just run that command one more time and copy the public key like this. And I'm going to copy it right now. Control Shift C is to copy. You can also right click and copy. That also works. Copy that public key in your clipboard. That is how you copy. And then you begin creating a new data bag. And the key that will go inside a JSON file in a data bag by the name user.json, which is how it will look like here after you run the command. This section, this $user, is an expression that gets evaluated to the username user. So it becomes the user after the evaluation succeeds, which is what I intend to do right now. Is what I will do is run these commands, basically creating a new data bag item. So in my data bag folder, I have nothing. So I'll create a users, plural, users data bag right now. So I'll take this line here and run it. And now I have this new data bag created, which is empty right now. It doesn't contain anything, but that's what I just did. It's created a new data bag folder containing user's name, and that becomes my bag. And in that bag, I will create items. And the item I want to create is called user.json, which is what this thing is. So I'm going to touch a file in the data bags folder, in the user subfolder, with a name $user. Now this can be cryptic, but doesn't have to be, because I just said this is this is a expression that gets evaluated into the username, which happens to be user, which means this word will be replaced by letters user. And when I hit enter, that's what you will see in the users subfolder right there. So you see that a file got created, user.json. This is written like this in a cryptic fashion, primarily because it becomes useful in any machine, even when the username is not user. So for example, if I want to echo the value of user, I see user. That's what I'm talking about. If the username happens to be something different, for example, in this machine, I have this terminal, and if I run the same command here and say echo $user, I will not see user, but something else. The username is Cloud Genius. That's a different username. So who am I? Cloud Genius. So different username. This username is different. So if you run the same command, this command on the other machine, you will see cloudgenius.json created, because the evaluation will be different. That's what you're looking at. So I am creating an item in there. This item is now available as an empty item. In that, I want to edit. So I'm using gedit in the write-up. You can use Atom. In the Atom editor, you want to paste the content as is like this. I copy and then paste. And here you have to save it. So the user.json gets saved. However, the pasting of public key is still remaining. So we still have to paste our public key in that location, just like that. So we have to do that. And we will do that by looking at the public key one more time and copying it by Control Shift C, and then bringing it here to the paste your public key here. By the way, be very careful. You don't want to miss the double quotes on the other side, both sides. You have to keep them. And in between those two double quotes, you want to paste. And it becomes really long. At the end, you will find that you have a closing quote and a comma. You have to keep them. Don't get rid of them. You have to keep them. If you don't by mistake or by chance miss them, Atom will complain with a red signal. So let's say I delete my comma by mistake. Boom. And then try to save. Atom will immediately complain in a red colored signal somewhere. There we go. And that's how you can miss. And you don't want to miss. So Atom will warn you, put a comma back and save, and the error goes away. Now you have a correctly formed user data bag called user.json, and that becomes your sysadmin user, by the way. This user called user becomes a member of the sysadmin group, a member of the DBA group, a member of the DevOps group. These are just names of groups that we will have on our user, on our system. And the sysadmin user is what we are interested in. So in that, what we have is the username is user, so there is no need to change anything here. However, if you're using some other machine, then you want to run it the command like this $user, and that will take care of the username on that local machine. Having done that part, pasting is critical. You saw me do that, so I don't want to repeat that. Now, after having done this creating part, I want to now add my data bag to Git. So Git add data bags, and then Git commit. And then I have added my data bag item called user.json in the users bag. So this is the bag name, and this is the item name. It is in the Git commit, but still our Chef server does not have it. So we want to give it to Chef server, and we want to first check what does Chef server have currently. It has nothing, which means nice, I can proceed. If you have something from a previous step, if you run this exercise a couple of times, you will have to remember to delete that. The deletion command is mentioned right there. If you're deleting any old attempts, you have to have a older data bag item deleted and create a new bag. And that's what we intend to do, is to actually create a users bag like this and create. So it will create a bag, and then you want to send your bag up to the Chef server, and bag item and bag. And so the command is kind of really complex again, but let's read it one by one. And bundle exec, that is clear. Knife is the command. Data bag from file, and which file? And that's the clumsy part, is first it expects you to give the data bag name, not the file name, followed by the file item reference, which is data bag, and then users, and then user.json. Or you can type $user also, or type like this. Both of them are valid because they get evaluated to the same thing. Now, having typed this, once you run enter, it will take the item called user.json, put that in the bag called users, and it just went up to your Chef server. So it has it. It has a user in the users bag, which happens to be a sysadmin user you will create. That's what this step was. Next up. Next, you want to create an encryption key, and then create another data bag to store your database password. So this data bag item was for the user and a public key. Not critical from a security standpoint. It's public key, right? Not that critical. This is public key right there. We don't care. Public key is supposed to be given. Private key is not. The next bag I want to create in the data bags is not about users, but about secrets. So for that secret, I need to have an encryption key, which I currently do not have in the Chef folder. In the .chef folder doesn't have it, which means I need to create an encryption key. That's the first step here. So we are creating an encryption key, and you have done it once before. And so here we go. Generate an encryption key, put that in the .chef folder like that. Create it, paste it. So it becomes available. And you want to make sure that you chmod 400 so that it becomes readable only to you. So that key that we have, encryption key, you should not expose it to anybody, and chmod it to 400. So it becomes readable only by you. And having done this part, you will also remember that this particular encryption key that you have is in git ignore. So git doesn't get it. It is ignored. Git will not get. Having said, you want to now go back to your knife RB and uncomment this line after you have created your encryption key. And that's what I intend to do. Since I have now created the encryption key, I want to uncomment the line and save. So this knife RB that you have now contains a reference to knife:secret file, and it points to the current directory encrypted data bag secret file, which is exactly where the secret lives. And so it knows how to grab the secret. And so now we have our knife RB updated with an uncomment, which is nice. Now we can use encrypted data bags, which means we have to create one more. And we will use the gedit editor this time, because that's how the machine is configured. It connects to the Chef server and edits a file directly on the Chef server, not here on your laptop, not here on the workstation, but directly on the Chef server. That's the key part to remember, that this step is going to remote edit using gedit a file for your data bag secrets to store your data bag items on the Chef server, not local. And that's what we intend to do with this. And there is some reference about the editor variable. Let us talk about that a little bit. So echo $editor, it says gedit, which means this was before Atom started, right? Atom is a relatively new product. So the Atom came along. You can change the editor variable value in the shell bash rc zshrc to another character such as Atom here instead of gedit. And then gedit will not be used, but Atom will be used. Or you can use vi, or you can use any editor, any capable editor that can connect to a remote machine and edit a remote file. You can use that. This machine is currently configured to use gedit. So we are just going to use gedit, not Atom, for this particular step. And what you will see in the next step is this step, which is we are going to run another long command, and it can be clumsy. So let us go step by step. Bundle exec knife data bag create. And here what I want to do is pass the secret file. And my secret file is stored in the file called encrypted data bag secret in a folder called .chef hidden. Then I'm going to give it a name of the bag, which is secrets. And then I'm going to give the name of an item. My item will contain my database passwords for my MySQL database. So I'm going to call it MySQL. And this command will create a new data bag item called MySQL in a bag called secrets in the Chef server using gedit. And when I hit enter, you will see gedit pops up. And this is a remote editing scenario, meaning you're not creating anything local. You're creating a JSON file in the remote machine, which happens to be Chef server. And in that editor, you want to post this, copy and paste. In place of this ID MySQL, you'll paste a little bit more than that. You will say, in my development environment, I would like to use the root password as 123, replication password as 123, Debian password as 123, and in my production environment, I want to use my root password to be this and that and this and that. That's my data bag item called MySQL. I'm going to save it. And when I save, this save is happening in the Chef server. That's why it takes a little bit longer than a second. And when you close the file out, you will see that there is no new file created locally. It says created bag, secrets bag, and it created a data bag item called MySQL and all that good stuff. But if you go in Atom and say, okay, where is my bag? It's not there. The user bag is there, but the secrets bag is not there because the editor doesn't do it locally, it does it remotely. This step will do it remote. Apparently there was a question. Maybe there was not, but I misheard. So if there's no question, I'll proceed. Now, the idea behind this bag getting created, that stores our passwords. The password is very difficult to remember. It's 1, 2, and 3, and that's the password. So I don't want anybody in the Chef server who's controlling that managed Chef IO. Those guys who are controlling that server, they should not be able to discover what my password is. So what do I do now? I go to policy and then my data bag, and I see that I have a users bag. In that users bag, I have the user with a username user and a SSH key that I pasted that shows up here. And then my groups called sysadmin, DBA, DevOps, and all that you remember from the previous step. But that's the user detail. Now let us look at the secrets detail. That secret detail contains secrets bag. In that bag, I have this item called MySQL. And in the item, I have the ID called MySQL. And in that ID, I have the dev environment. Oops, it's all encrypted. And the prod environment also encrypted, which means nobody in Chef server who manages this box can actually get hold of my real passwords because they are encrypted. They cannot figure it out what my password is, which is, by the way, very complex, 1, 2, 3. And so they cannot tell because it is encrypted. Now, having done this part, we have expanded to see the data bag item called MySQL in the secrets data bag. But we don't have a local copy, so we want to get that. So we want to get a local copy by doing some steps. So we want to basically, this write-up is a little bit different. What I'm saying is because most people also apparently do a typing mistake at this step for some reason. I don't know why. And they end up with a bag they forget the create step and they run it twice. So if you run the create step twice, it will fail to create because you already have a bag and an item, and you try to create one more time, it will fail. So this secrets exists, the MySQL item exists, and you try create one more time, it will fail. So what do? If I want to change something, don't run the create command, but instead run the edit command, edit, edit command. That's the difference. So here I'm saying, if the command fails for some reason, you have the bag and the item already, so you want to make changes to it, you can edit like this. And by the way, I'm going to edit for you. And the editor will pop up. You'll go to Chef server, pull down the credentials, decrypt them, show you human readable credentials, and you can make a change if you like. Call it 3 to 1 and save. And that's okay. Or maybe just revert back to 1, 2, 3 and save. And that's also okay. But when you do these changes back, it succeeds. It says encrypting the data bag using provided secret, and then saved a data bag item called MySQL and all that back in the good old Chef server. So it saved there. And we were able to edit that bag once we created it one time. But if for some reason it still gives you error, then at that time, what you need to do is make sure you delete that bag. So this bag needs to be deleted. You can delete the bag like these red lines. So here's the delete command, delete secrets and delete secrets. So you can delete like that if you run into errors, and then follow along with the creation step. Since I did not run into errors, and I still know what my password is, I can go edit one more time and verify that I know my password is 123 and 123, so I can be happy about it. And then come out. And here I want to now make sure that I create a place to store the secrets locally, which means I need to have a data bag folder and a secrets subfolder underneath, like this. So we created a folder to store that secret, MySQL secret, in there, the item there. So we're creating a folder like that, and then grab our secret out. So we'll grab our secret like this: bundle exec, knife, data bag, show me my secret for SQL, for MySQL. So please show it to me. So it will show it to us and say 123, 123, 123. But this is not JSON representation, right? So I want to represent this in JSON file format. So I'll say FJ, show me in JSON. So it'll give you JSON file format. And then you want to get that and save it in a file and put that in the data bags file secrets folder, and then call it the mysql.json. So you have a local copy of your secret. So that's what we intend to do, is we are saving the output of the FJ, which is the format as JSON, which is not done by default. If you just say data bag show secret MySQL, it will just give you the dump. This is not JSON, so you want to convert that into JSON format. So we get the JSON right here, and then you want to redirect the output to the file called MySQL JSON in the correct location, and that will create a file. So when I run this command, you will see that the secrets folder will contain a new file called MySQL JSON right there. And this is the human readable secret, which is what we wanted to begin with. And now we have it. So now, once we have the MySQL JSON file locally, we want to add the data bag itself to git commit, and then commit. Now we have our Git repository that keeps track of the secrets in a data bag. Now, if you want to see the secrets, you can just show them if you like, edit them if you like, and then we proceed to the next step. And now at this stage, we are at a point where we are going to create our own cookbook. And this cookbook creation is important. The reason what we want to do in the cookbook that we have already called MySQL and a recipe, and there is no default here, by the way, as you will see. MySQL cookbook does not have a default recipe because there are only two ways to use it. Either you can use the MySQL client setup, which will create a MySQL client so you can connect to a remote database server, or you can set up MySQL as a server itself. And that is the dominant usage of MySQL cookbook. So here, if you look at this cookbook, which is the server recipe of the MySQL cookbook, that's the dominant, that's our interested usage. We are interested in using the server recipe of the MySQL cookbook. And in that, you will find that there are some attributes defined here which call out that the default password is I like random passwords, as opposed to 123, because I don't like I like random passwords. I like 123, and that is my choice. So I want to make sure that I can use the password I want, not I like random passwords, which means I have to override. And I can do the override in a couple of different methods. One method that I am suggesting that we do is to create a cookbook. And that is what we are going to do next, is to basically override these passwords by default. It says I like random passwords, but that's not what I want. So I want to use something else, not what the cookbook author wanted. The cookbook author wanted something else. I don't want that. So I will create my own cookbook. And then through that cookbook reference, I will use my own data bag secret. This one. That's what I really want to use, that secret MySQL JSON in the secrets bag that I have in my Chef server. So I want to pass a reference to those items in the bag and still use the existing MySQL cookbook for deploying a server. So I want to create my own cookbook, and that makes use of the MySQL cookbook that we have already. But then my cookbook will belong here, the site cookbooks folder. That's where it belongs. It will get created in that location, and that is what I intend to do next. So what I will do is run one more command, and that will generate a skeleton, a template. And that template will become the basis of my first cookbook that I will create right now. And as you will see, a new cookbook is going to get created for me, and I will customize it the way I want by running, by using an editor. But right now I'm going to run this command. What is that doing? It says bundle exec knife cookbook create. And by the way, give it a name. The name is your SQL. That's the name I chose before, if you remember, in our role definition for web server or the database DB master, the name was your SQL. That's the name I chose before, and I want to make sure that I create a recipe for your SQL, and that is my intention. So I'm naming my cookbook to be your SQL. That's the name I'm choosing because that's my choice in an earlier role creation. So that is what I'm fulfilling right now. In fact, even before you go that direction, if you go to the Chef server manage.chef.io and go look at your policy and your roles and your database master role, and you will find that there is an error already. The error is red dot right there. It says you have a base role, which is okay, but then you have this your SQL thing. I don't know what that thing is, because cookbook not found, because there is no such cookbook yet called your SQL. So how do I run this? There's an error. So it shows you the error already in the role definition in your Chef server user interface. And the error is cookbook not found, meaning your cookbook doesn't exist. The cookbook called your SQL doesn't exist. I mean, we haven't even created it yet, so it cannot exist. So we'll create one and then send it over, and that error will disappear once the Chef server has access to our cookbook. Before we can send it to the Chef server, we need to create that. And that is this step, create. And you will see that the book gets created in a skeleton format, very, very basic. Just to help us start somewhere, it gets created in a subfolder here in the site cookbooks, and it will be called your SQL. That's the name. Enter. And so here we go. We now have a new cookbook in our site cookbooks folder called your SQL. And it has populated some of the basic stuff for us already. And we'll go look at that right now in our your SQL cookbook. Whole bunch of folders with some metadata. The metadata says the name is your SQL. The maintainer is my name. Email, license, description. It installs and configures your SQL. What does your SQL mean? Nobody knows. So let's skip that. But the core idea here is to go look at the recipes and the default recipe, which is mostly comments. It's all blank. It's all comment. The creator is Nilesh, and the copyright is to me, and the license is Apache, and all that is populated by default because I wanted it like that in our Chef knife RB definition. I have my name here and my license called out. So that is why the cookbook creation step automatically pulls up my detail and pastes it in the commentary. However, this is an empty action. There's no action. It's blank. So I need to write something here in the default recipe to make a reference to the other real, fully functional MySQL cookbook. Where is that? MySQL cookbook. This cookbook has to be referenced in your SQL. And that is our idea in our default recipe. That's what we will do. And what we will do is make sure that we get our passwords from the encrypted data bag in the Chef server. So we are going to write some lines here. Those lines are right there. Bring them over here, paste. And let us now read and understand. The line number 19, or I should focus on that line right here. This line 19, it defines a variable called secrets, and it equals the Chef server encrypted data bag item dot load secrets data bag MySQL item. This means you go to the Chef server, get the encrypted data bag item called MySQL from the data bag called secrets, and take that JSON basically out, that JSON, and assign it to this variable. Whatever you see in that item, put that in the secrets variable, and then execute this condition. 3 steps. The conditions are: node.set in your MySQL the server root password, make it equal to the MySQL password for root, which is what you're looking at back here. Cookbooks, MySQL, attributes, default. And the default MySQL server root password was, I like random passwords. Well, I don't, because I like very well-known passwords like 123. And so that is what I will take from my encrypted data bag item called MySQL, from the data bag called secrets, and the variable called secrets, and take it out from here, assign it to the attribute for MySQL server root password, which essentially overrides this. And then what I will do after I override those is I will say, now go do your thing. Now go run MySQL server recipe, and I'm done. So it's a very, very simple, my own cookbook created that uses the existing cookbook, but with an override. So I am essentially overriding those default attributes, like I like random passwords, with what I really want to use, and I'm extracting that out of an encrypted data bag stored in the Chef server. And then when I have these variables replaced, these 3 attributes replaced, then I can go ask MySQL server, MySQL cookbook server recipe, which is MySQL cookbook, and the server recipe to go do your thing, like go do whatever you do, and it'll do it. That's what I want. So just do your thing, but remember, use my passwords, not yours. And that's this cookbook. Very simple. And that's what I will save in my site cookbooks folder, where I have it called out, called your SQL. And the step at this moment before we break for the next session, which is, we have it on 18th, and the thing that I want to do is make sure that I send my cookbook up in the policy cookbooks area. I should be able to see my cookbook here, for which I need to go back to my terminal and say bundle exec knife cookbook upload -a. That should take care of it. Upload all the books. If you don't want to go like this, you can say upload your SQL, and then give it a path to be very specific. and say, go take it from that path. So take it from the site cookbooks path, from this path, -O, path reference. From that path, take the your SQL cookbook and upload it to Chef server. That's what this command will do. And I will do it this way. And so it will take exactly that one cookbook, your SQL, send it over to Chef server, uploaded, succeeded. And I will show you the other way out also, which is brute force. You don't have to remember, just say -A and send everything up, and it will do everything one more time. If there are any changes to your local machine, it will push the changes out up, only the changes flow, and it should not take too long because all the cookbooks are already there. And the cookbook listing, if you can go refresh, it will show you that you now have the your SQL cookbook right there. And this cookbook is written by me, and it will have my detail with my content and all the files and all the details, basically showing up what I just uploaded. And now let us go look at the roles. In our role, we have the DB master role, which was complaining before that cookbook doesn't exist because your SQL cookbook did not, but now it does. So the complaint goes away. Now the version your SQL cookbook exists. And that is what will be used when you are going to apply the DB master role to set up a database. It will automatically pick up your data bag and look at the secrets bag and the MySQL item for the production or dev, whatever environment you select. And these are encrypted, but there is the encryption key, which will decrypt these items, the data bag items, and then go back to your cookbook, go back to the role, DB master, look at the base, apply those things first, and then look at the your SQL cookbook, override the attributes for your SQL through the method that we have placed in our instruction here. In our default recipe, we have these overrides are in place. So they will kick in. And once those overrides are taken, then the MySQL server recipe will kick in from the cookbooks folder here up on top. This one will pop up and run, and that will complete a properly deployed MySQL server based on what we want as opposed to what somebody else wants. So now we have uploaded all the cookbooks, including our your SQL cookbook. And at this stage, I will pause and I will let you make sure you follow along. I really want you to succeed. I want you to actually get this exercise because this is a comprehensive example of taking an application, all the requirements, deploying it the way using the Chef method of doing. There are 100 other methods of accomplishing the same thing. This is just focusing on one tool and making it automatic, making it end-to-end automatic. That's what we are ultimately headed towards, and that's what we intend to do. Now, having said this, I will ask you this question. Who is coming and joining us tomorrow? Please say yes in the Slack chat. So I'm just taking a head count of who's going to show up because that location that we have is very stingy. It asks you how many people are going to come. And if you are not going to be showing up with, let's say we said 12 people, they will not let you in if, yes, it was 6 p.m. tomorrow. So 6 o'clock we start and we take how much ever time it takes to eat and talk and enjoy. The place is Din Tai Fung in Bellevue. I'll paste a link in Slack chat so you have it in the Bellevue location. This place is stingy and I know them very well. Is that they will not let you in. If you say we have 12 people, they'll say, okay, show us 12 people. Otherwise, you're not getting in. That's the problem in that location, but that's how the culture is. So we don't have to blame them. That's the culture in that country. So we are just following along. And the location for Bellevue, USA, where is the Bellevue location? Los Angeles, Orange County, Seattle, Bellevue. So that's the location. So we got the location part. So pasting it, and if you're attending, please say yes so we can keep a count and it is 6 p.m. tomorrow. I know some of you cannot make it, and I would like you to meet me at any other time that you find convenient. And just make sure that I know you. I want to meet you in person. Any place, time you pick, so I can at least know you. That's my point. Is I want to understand how the course is going. Just talk to you one on one to feel how you find it. That's my idea of meeting you. That's the reason I want to meet you guys. So please, if you cannot make this, let us talk. Let us figure out another place to have coffee or something, and let us meet that. So with that,
Question, Neelish.
yes, sir.
Okay, so this is really cool, and this I can understand how this works and all that. I am new to this, but it's still very cool. But one of the questions I have, so you say there are other tools, but is this the best tool?
No.
And I asked that question since you know what the best tools are and what the not so good tools are. I don't want to wait. If I'm going to use a tool, at least initially, I don't want to waste a lot of time learning what is the best tool. I want you to help me understand what tool I should be focused on.
Right.
That's part of what I'm getting out of this, right?
Right. So let's go to Home Depot and let us see which tool do we want. And there are tons and tons of tools, right? Is every tool right for the right job? No. So how do you pick the right tool? What's the right tool for a job? The tool that is right is the one depends on the job. So really the answer to your question is this the best tool? The answer is no. I don't know what job you have in mind. Is Ansible the best tool? I have no idea, because it really boils down to what is the job, what is the project,
okay,
right? That's what decides what tool you apply to. So Chef may not be the right one. Who knows what job you have? So let us understand that part, because that defines the tool, or rather tools you will use. So that you'll not just use one tool, you might use many. And that is what decides what's the best tool. And that's what you should focus on, is identify the project. And then we can talk in the context of the project, is that the best tool? If it is,
okay.
And yes, go ahead.
Let me interject this. I'm a firm believer in the 80-20 rule, and that you could apply that to just about any law of nature. 80% of revenue comes from 20% of the reps, 80% of your solutions are 20%, in other words, is 20% of your overall solutions serve 80% of your needs. So, and there's a variation of that, 70-30, within that type thing. So in the world of cloud today, the most popular, say, e-commerce or whatever, 3-tier, whatever cloud architectures, overwhelmingly, 80% of the time, what are those 20% of the applications that most of the world's using that serve that come up 80% of the time? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And if so, of those 20%, is Ansible or is Chef more prevalent?
So the other way to answer that question is, there are a couple of ways to answer this question. One way was, okay, define the project, define the job. Right. Yes.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't
know. No. It's not about wrong or right, but I'm just giving you a variety of ways to think about it. And so here is one. So one way was to identify the project or the job. That's a very narrowly focused case, right? You have a case in point in mind. That's what you will focus on. You identify the right tool. But from a more general perspective, there is another way to think about these things, and that is, who's using Chef? Let's ask that question. Who's using Chef? Who are the customers that are using Chef? And so we have some names here. That's Target, Nordstrom, Facebook, Etsy, IGN, Yahoo, Bloomberg, and all that. So you have a huge list coming along. And there are more, by the way, people that use Chef. So much so that in Amazon, there is a tool called, what's the name? OpsWorks. Where does that go? Yeah, here. So this a dedicated service called OpsWorks that Amazon has decided to make available, that uses Chef as the foundation. And it's a full-fledged service from Amazon that uses Chef. So the reason why we use Chef in the program is because Chef is actually very popular. Now, as I said, it may not be the right tool for every job, which is why I began with the answer no, it's not the right tool. I don't even know the job, but that's the generic answer because I want to get to the right project or the case or the use case that you might have in mind, for which Chef may or may not be the right tool. However, we know that there is this service that we are looking at right now is uses Chef, and it's one of the biggest cloud providers today. So that's one way to think about, okay, who's using Chef, who's building out services using Chef. Now let us look at some other ones. This example of Facebook. Let us go read that case study as to what they do. So Facebook is saying Chef was so attractive, it was incredible flexibility. And that's one of the reasons why Facebook used to manage its systems using this other tool called CF Engine. And in the case study, they're describing why it switched over to using Chef, which basically, they're in this case study, they're describing how they use Chef to manage Facebook infrastructure. Facebook infrastructure is not chump change. You have a huge property there, worldwide distributed. And so it's a massive infrastructure that gets managed using the tool. So it is very capable of doing it. And that's how you should think about, is this something that is also popular? And so does a similar comparison with who uses Ansible, who uses desired state configuration, all other tools. And another way to think about Ansible is that it got acquired by a big name called Red Hat. So Ansible is now a part of Red Hat, which means it is getting Ansible on Red Hat. Where is the Red Hat news?
Yeah, one of the things I was going to say about it was, yeah, I mean, really, there's so many different factors that come into play. Like, from what I've read and heard, and from my experiences, if you want the best support in the business, Puppet Enterprise would probably be the best option because they typically are more entrenched in, I guess, as they're the bigger enterprise customer. As far as if you just want to get up and go and you don't want to have to install anything on your remote machines, Ansible's good because you just do because it's just push and SSH based.
Yeah.
So I mean,
we will cover some Ansible also in the third segment. In fact, that brings up to a good point we want to cover. There have been requests from a couple of people to cover specific things that I will incorporate. So I will focus some time on Ansible, some time on Docker, some time on OpenStack, in addition to what we are covering. So we'll make sure to do that. And as Alex is saying, it really boils down to use cases. If you don't have a case where you don't want to install anything, like, Chef will install a Chef client on the target machines every single time before it runs it. In Ansible, there is no such thing. There is nothing to install, nothing, literally. So all you do is SSH and just play around from a remote control perspective. You basically sit on your laptop, and through that, you just connect to anything you want with SSH and just play a playbook. The word is playbook. And you play a playbook on a target, and that's what Ansible is structured around. It's very lightweight, nothing to install. It's all driven by your desire to do something. So it's push driven, as opposed to this method of running Chef will basically do a pull based approach. So you have the Chef server here, and you have the Chef client running on a bunch of machines, M1, M2, like that. And so these clients, when they run, they will pull down whatever they need. So it's a pull-based approach. Whereas in case of Ansible, you decide what you want to happen. And there is no Chef server, there is no Ansible server. Typically, most use cases do not require that. So you have a playbook here that you will run against a target collection of nodes, and they will not need to be installed with anything. You just use the existing SSH toolkit and push and drive your accomplished outcome, the desired state, as they call it. And that's the way of usage. There is also a write-up somewhere along that compares and contrasts Chef and Ansible. I will find it and paste a link for you.
What about Bosch?
Bosch is a specific tool to manage Cloud Foundry, and it is designed to manage this particular product, Bosch. Okay. So Bosh, CF, push. I'm forgetting the command, but those kind of commands you run with Bosh, it is designed to work with this. That's also open source. This is also open source. Bosh is also open source, and this basically deploys your applications on Cloud Foundry in some sense. So it is a little bit more elaborate than that, but it is not a configuration manager as we will use Chef or Puppet or Ansible or CF Engine or things like that. It is more towards specifically addressing the need for Cloud Foundry.
And then something like a run book like a playbook.
Yes. The desired state configuration will use the word run book, and Ansible will use the word playbook, and Ansible will use playbook. Chef will use cookbook. So they're the same things, basically the same thing. It's a collection of things to do, right? Things to do this, do that, do this, do that. And essentially they all follow the same principle, which is define the outcome. The outcome. It is declarative, right? It is declare. You declare what you want. It is the define what, and you don't define not the how to. The how to, let the software take care of it. You define the outcome, and you get the outcome. You get the result.
So coming to the point, Nilesh, that this is declarative, most of the time when you're compiling things, you get into error. Like in this particular case, unless I go to the UI, I didn't know that I have not written my cookbook, your SQL. So are there tools or mechanisms to find out, if I have to, like, is my configuration, is my declaration complete? Or is it solid?
There is this thing called Test Kitchen that will help you run the scenarios in Chef. So there is a tooling slightly more involved. We are not that stage yet, but as you go advanced in further using Chef, there is a toolkit that will help you identify those gotchas. There's a toolkit to help you build cookbooks. There is a toolbook to automate and test your cookbooks as you deploy before you go broader. So those toolings are available, and you can make use of them. One of them is this Bark Shell that I mentioned, and also the Test Kitchen suite. So there are tooling available that will help you develop what you want based on these principles of defining exactly what outcome you want, while not getting yourself bogged down how to do things, and get to a point where we can accomplish a desired state outcome. And these tools, like I said, Puppet is also a very good one. I just don't use Puppet because, not that I hate it, but that I have never used it. So Puppet Lab is a Oregon company, and they are also open source. It is very much like Ruby. So it is very easy to accomplish a good understanding of it. But I just don't use Puppet because I never used it. So there's nothing wrong with Puppet as such. It's just that I'm not familiar with it and I don't touch it because I never did. And that's the only reason I don't. But if you go look at a Google employee laptop, you will find Google laptops are managed through PuppetD. So PuppetD is running as a process on Google laptops. And so one of my friends who works at Google one day showed me this, and he asked me, what is this? And so I told him, this is what somebody in Google IT is basically remote controlling your machine as a Puppet. And centrally, they're pushing down. This is like your, in Windows, you have this group policy and Active Directory and centrally managed machines. So you machine corporate-wide deployment. In Microsoft, you see that happen. Many other companies do that. Remote IT will control, manage your laptops, allow you to install certain things and disallow you to from some other things, not give you admin rights on your laptops, like a classic case. And people fight back, and all that happens in many companies, like including companies like XYZ. And so that is what you see. So that is what can also be used, is not just for cloud administration, but for IT administration of laptops. You can run Puppet or Chef or Ansible and have a method of keeping things in order in a corporation. You can use these as long as machines are Unixy. So most common companies may not be Unix, Linux things, they may not be using those operating systems. But if you are a Windows shop, you're likely to use the Microsoft method of controlling through Active Directory deployments and group policy control methods for your laptops in your company. That is not the Ansible way or the Puppet Chef way. More dominant usage is actually Microsoft tooling in people using Windows machines for laptops and things like that. So laptops, desktops managed by corporate.
Security,
Yeah.
security definitions and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yes. So answering your question in an elaborate fashion, it really boils down on the tool being used, but also another way to look at that is to go look at something like hold on. There is a link already here. What is that thing called? It is called there's a picture. Yeah, Indeed.com. So we'll go Indeed trends. And through that trend analysis, we will go look for the word data scientist. Okay, so we'll go look for the word cloud, or rather, just use the word chef and compare. How is the chef demand over the last couple of years? How is it relative and absolute? Compare that. Compare the same thing with chef or Ansible. So see what pops up. See, Ansible is growing. And on a relative term, as well as absolute term, Ansible seems to be growing faster than Chef. Chef has been in the past very popular, but not in the last year or so. Like in the second half, it kind of came down. The demand for Chef, by the way, we are talking about now Puppet. We'll look at what Puppet is doing. The Puppet is kind of stabilized. Let us look at CF Engine and how is the demand for CF Engine is kind of low. Letter about CF Engine, yeah, it's kind of sluggish and even trending towards low. CF Engine jobs. Let's look at desired state configuration. Let's see. Okay, nothing. I don't know what the right name to use. DSC, nothing. So we don't have any. Apparently, there is some DSC jobs, but I don't know what job that means. So donor services coordinator, maybe. I don't know. I'm not worried about that DSC part. Yeah.
Well, desired configuration management.
Okay, so let's see the desired configuration management search keyword and desired configuration management. What was this blip? Oh, it went down. Desired configuration management is kind of sluggishly going down, which is not a good sign. So you don't want to learn this tool. Instead, you want to go learn something like Puppet. Oh, no, sorry, something like Ansible or Chef. Those tools are growing. You can see them on an upward trend. Not Chef in the last 6 months though, but Ansible seems to be going up really nicely, which is how you can think about, if you're learning a tool, which tool do you want to learn? That's how you can think of. That's another way to think about these problems, is to who's using it at a large scale, and how is the job market addressing that, and most importantly, what's the project, what's the tool. That's the biggest challenge to find out, but that's what we are getting at. So we'll resume our discussions next time we meet. Until that time, I would like you to catch up to this point if you haven't, and let us meet tomorrow. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and 9 people saying yes. That is nice. There may be a couple of more, so I'll ask those who are not here today. We have some dropped off on the phone call, but let me stop recording, and I will see you tomorrow. So stopping the recording now.
Good, thank you.